Good evening. Good evening. The NVUSD Board of Education is holding a regular virtual board meeting tonight that all can participate in remotely. You can join via Zoom. Specific directions on how to participate are located on the Board of Education webpage on the district's website, nvusd.org/board. The open session part of the meeting agenda begins at 7 p.m. Before going into closed session, the board is available for public comment on closed session agenda items. We don't have anybody in the boardroom yet. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment?
We do not have any public comment on closed session items.
Thank you, sir. Seeing that there are none, the Napa Valley Unified School District will now adjourn into closed session. We will see you at 7. Good evening. My name is Robin Jankowitz, and this is the Napa Valley Unified School District Board of Education. The NVUSD Board of Education is holding a regular board meeting tonight that all can participate remotely via Zoom or in person here in the boardroom. Interpretation in Spanish is available for tonight's virtual board meeting. Our interpreters are Isidra Mencos and Francisco Meza. May we have one of the interpreters translate the directions on our English channel so our Spanish-speaking families can hear the instructions.
Buenas noches. La reunión de hoy va a tener servicios de interpretación simultánea en español. Para acceder a los servicios de interpretación, en breves momentos ustedes van a ver en la parte de abajo de su pantalla de Zoom un icono del globo terráqueo. Pueden hacer clic en ese icono y escoger el idioma español o Spanish. Si están en su teléfono móvil, ustedes verán 3 puntitos y dice More o Más. Al hacer clic allá van a ver también los servicios de interpretación y van a poder escoger el idioma español. Gracias.
Thank you. May we please start with an attendance roll call from Vera Morales, Executive Assistant.
Yes, Student Board Member Bitt.
Present.
Trustee Jankowitz.
Present.
Trustee Gracia.
Present.
Trustee Water.
Present.
Trustee Reiser.
Present.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Present.
Trustee Shu.
Present.
Trustee Dooley.
Here.
Quorum present. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vera. Thank you for joining us tonight for our Napa Valley Unified School District Board meeting. Public participation this evening and moving forward will be virtual, online, and in person here in the boardroom. Directions on how to participate via Zoom are available at nvusd.org/board. We have reconvened, and I'm sorry we were a little tardy, at 7:14 this evening. Trustee Water, do you have anything to report from closed session?
Yes. Are you E1A expulsions? 2 cases. Number 1, the board recommends for the expulsion of student 421-2022A.
And to expel.
Second.
Roll call. It's a roll call.
Okay, so it's a roll call.
It is a roll call.
Okay,
Vera,
so
can we get a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Trustee Jankowitz.
Yes.
Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
Trustee Water.
aye.
Trustee Reiser.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Trustee Shu.
Aye.
Trustee Dooley.
Aye.
Thank you.
And number 2, the board recommends for the expulsion for student 421-2022B.
Move to expel.
Second.
First by Trustee Gracia, second by Trustee Dooley. Roll call vote, please, Vera.
Trustee Jankowitz.
Aye.
Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
Trustee Water.
Aye.
Trustee Reiser.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Trustee Shu.
Abstain.
Trustee Dooley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vera.
And in E2A personnel, in closed session, the board took action to approve the following staff recommendations effective the 2022-23 school year. 1, Martha Franco to the position of principal at Willow Elementary. 2, Peter Hartnick to the position of principal at Redwood Middle School. 3, Cheryl Lawton to the position of assistant principal at Napa High School. And 4, Marianne Spritzer to the position of coordinator of special education. Congratulations.
Congratulations to all.
Typically, we allow the selected candidates to be able to address the board. So I'm going to need your help here. Jordan, is Martha Franco on Zoom tonight? The new principal of Willow Elementary?
Yes, she is.
Martha, would you like to address the board?
Yes, I would. I don't know if you could see me, but can you hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Yes, okay. Well, Dr. Masetti, President Gonzalez, Board of Trustees, student trustees, district leadership, colleagues, and community members, I am delighted to be here this evening to be able to formally accept the offer of principal at Will Elementary. It is an honor to be able to return to a school community and staff that I had the privilege of working with before it became Will Elementary. And I look forward to being a part of the amazing work that was established there through the arts and instruction and student achievement. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. And I'm sorry I couldn't be present. Had to deal with one of my own at soccer practice, but thank you so much for this opportunity.
Congratulations, Martha. Let's stay with the folks that are online. Is Ms. Cheryl Lawton on the call?
Yes, I am on the call.
Hi, welcome, Ms. Lawton. Welcome to NVUSD. Would you like to address the board?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So good evening, Dr. Masetti, President Jankowicz, Board of Trustees, student board members, district personnel, and all the wonderful Napa community. I really am so excited and thank you so much for the opportunity to serve in the role of assistant principal at Napa High. So far, I've been so impressed with everyone I've met there, and everyone else at the district office has been absolutely wonderful. I really appreciate the warm welcome, and I'm looking forward to many successful years serving this amazing Napa community of students, parents, and staff. So looking forward to getting started and getting my hands dirty and doing whatever I can. I am sorry I couldn't be there up in person tonight, but I'll see everyone soon.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Welcome to the NVUSD team, Ms. Lawton. We're very, very grateful that you chose NVUSD. And online, just one more. Do we have, I'm sorry, can you repeat the name here for me? I've lost my document. Thank you. Ms. Marianne Spritzer, is she on the call?
Yes.
Our new coordinator of special education.
There we go. Hi. Yes, I'm here. Oh, that's awesome. That's my fourth ring me right there. I'm so happy to be talking to you this evening. Thank you so much for letting me have a second at the board meeting. I can't be more excited about joining the Napa Valley Unified School District. You know, the interview process is rather strange and stressful. And I have to say that I sincerely enjoyed my interview so thoroughly with Napa Valley and all the people in the interview. What a great team of people. I'm so excited to be working with the special education team under Terry Lynn Rossetti. I think we can do great things, and it just feels really good to bring my experience as a teacher and an administrator in special education to Napa Valley. And I've been so impressed by all the great things I've heard about the district. And I have friends that have worked in the district or are still in the district, and they only say great things about the leadership. And I'm just beyond excited to be part of the Napa Valley team.
Excellent. Well, welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spritzer, again for choosing NVUSD. Welcome to the NVUSD family. And last but certainly not least, we have one of our newly appointed principals who's here in the room. I'm going to invite Mr. Peter Hartnick, who's just appointed as the new principal of Redwood Middle School. Welcome, Mr. Hartnick.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure I need a mic, but that's okay. One of the things that's really important at Redwood Middle School, and really a hallmark of any high quality middle school, is the opportunity to create smaller communities, to create teams. I've had the opportunity to work at many different schools in the Valley here. And all of them, I've had tremendous relationships, which has been really a hallmark of what I've been interested in my career, is making an impact through personal relationships. And there's a number of people who now I'm working with in different capacities who I just wanted to thank, because I think I would not be in this position without them. I think, working with Mike Pearson for years at Vintage High School as an instructional coach was really a pivotal role for me. It really showed me how to be an administrator, what to do, how to supervise, how to treat children, how to treat people with respect. I think working with Monica Reddy for years as teachers, as assistant principals together, as co-principals, as I was once her boss, she's now my boss. So we've had a lot of different roles, and I think that's a really important relationship to me as well moving forward. And of course, Marianne Christopherson, who's my current principal now, who will be working in the director role. Those teams are really important, and having those relationships are critically important. And though I've moved around a lot in my career, I look forward to serving Redwood for many, many years to come. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Peter. All right, those are the appointments for this evening, President Jankwitz.
Thank you. Trustee Gonzalez-Morris, would you like to lead us in the flag salute?
It would be my pleasure. If we can all stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is live streamed and recorded via Zoom and will be archived on the district YouTube channel. For a detailed review of any meeting agenda, the archived video can be referenced and located on the district webpage at nvusd.org. The public can join the virtual board meeting remotely via Zoom. Participation instructions and the process for public comment can be found on the district webpage. May I please get a motion for approval of the agenda?
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by Trustee Dooley. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The agenda is approved. We will move on to approval of the minutes. There have been some absences, so we will go through them. Approval of minutes for March 17th, 2022. Trustee Reiser, you were not there, so may I get a first?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in, first by Trustee Gracia, second by Trustee Dooley. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions?
I abstain.
Thank you. Minutes for the 17th approved. March 31st, Student Board Member Bitt, you were not there. So may I please get a motion?
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by Trustee Dooley. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions?
Abstain.
Thank you very much. March 31st approved. April 6th, Trustee Gonzalez-Morris and Student Board Member Bitt, you were absent. May I please get a motion first?
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by Trustee Dooley. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions?
Abstain.
I'll abstain.
Thank you very much. And we are now approved for the 6th and approval of minutes for April 7th. Trustee Gonzalez-Morris, you were absent.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by Trustee Dooley. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions?
Abstain.
Thank you very much. Approval of April 7th. Recognition of visitors and employee organizations, Dr. Masetti.
Yes, so we'll start online. I see that President Leslie Walder, the president of NAPS, is here. Can you please promote her? Mr. Michaels?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Good evening, President Jankowitz, members of the Board of Education, Student Representative Bitt, Dr. Masetti, and members of the NVUSD community. I'm Leslie Walder. I'm the president of the NAPS bargaining unit, and I'm pleased to be here, if remotely, this evening. And I look forward to tonight's meeting.
Thank you for joining us. I do not see Hector from CSBA or from CSEA. And so we'll go to in person. We have President Gail Young, the president of NVEA. here with us tonight.
Hello, board. I am so glad to be here. So glad to be back in person. It's so nice to actually see people in the audience also. It was great to have a week off. I think everybody needed the break. It's nice to be back to start back into our power through to the end of the year. We've got a lot of exciting things happening. Enjoy the evening.
Is that everybody? Okay, recognition of Students of the Month. Recognition of Students of the Month continues to be generously sponsored by the Napa Valley Education Foundation. So thank you to Jennifer Stewart. We have two high schools presenting this evening, Vintage High School and American Canyon High School. And I believe we will be starting with Principal O'Connor.
Oh, thank you. Vintage rarely gets to go first. I'm so excited. All right. Jordan, we have those slides. All right. So I'll start with our Vintage High School Board Student of the Month for the month of January is Luis Ramirez Soto. In a way, you have already briefly met Luis. 2 weeks ago, I presented at the board celebration of schools. No doubt you enjoyed the rather substantial portion of my presentation, the video. Well, that video was filmed, edited, and otherwise created by Luis Ramirez Soto under the direction of his digital multimedia and design teacher, Mr. Castillo. Luis is pretty talented, right? I promise you that what makes Luis so special to Vintage High School spans far beyond his video editing interests and talents. Luis has served all year on the Student Advisory Council for the district. As an English language learner who has successfully progressed through our ELD program, Luis's perspective is invaluable. In a few moments, you will hear about Luis's gratitude for the Vintage ELD staff that serve our amazing ELD students. It is true that Luis has been the recipient of awesome, supportive adults. Additionally, his own hard work and dedication to learning English and being academically successful in school is a reflection of who he is and his investment in his own education. But what truly impresses me most about Luis is that as he rises, he truly lifts others. Luis is a bilingual tutor for students who are still in the ELD program during the school day. He's also a math tutor for our ELD tutor program during intervention time twice a week. Luis's work with other students in the ELD program and in the intervention twice each week is having a remarkable impact on student outcomes at Vintage High School. He and the handful of other students engaged in this work are changing math grades, academic outcomes, and lives. Thank you, Luis. After graduating from Vintage this spring, Luis plans to study graphic design and be a graphic designer in the United States, and also plans to be a voice actor in Mexico for Mexican comedies. Outgoing, service-oriented, engaging, thoughtful. Luis is truly a star. I proudly present to you Luis Ramirez Soto.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Oh. Wait. Hi. Okay, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, NVUSD Board of Education, Superintendent Dr. Masetti, district leaders and educators. My name is Luis Carlos Ramirez Soto. I am a Chicano, and I'm here thanks to the fact that my parents give me permission to be in the US in order to have a better education and improve myself. The four educators that I choose tonight are Miss Claudia, Mrs. Mendez, Mr. Harley, and Mr. Castillo. Mr. Harley was my first English teacher since I arrived from Mexico. He is an ELD teacher, and I remember that he always supported me in my work and projects. It made me learn English much easier. To this day, we still see each other, not very often, but sometimes. Every time I see him, he greets me with a smile and worries about me, of how I'm doing in my new classes. Mr. Castillo is my digital media teacher. It is a class in which we learn to do a bit of graphic design, to use Photoshop and Adobe Premiere. Since last year during the pandemic, I had his class, and it was something that personally changed my perspective a lot and made me want to focus more on the subject of design, photography, and video editing, among other things. He's a teacher who allows me to use my creativity to the fullest and has given me many opportunities, such as working with the Napa Valley District and having my Adobe Photoshop certification. Mrs. Mendez was my translator from my first day at school. She helped me in most of my classes, world history and English. Unfortunately, I'm not with her in my classes because, you know, I'm more advanced, but we're still seeing each other in world history, where I work as a bilingual tutor, and we see each other sometimes in the math classroom. Finally, and I think one of the most important, is Miss Claudia. She has helped me whenever I had doubts with my grades, or has helped me know what to do or how to find solutions to different types of problems at school. She gave me many opportunities here on the Vintage High School campus, such as being student council and tutoring for math for those ELD students who just came to America. I think that without her, I could not be where I am right now, or it will be having more difficult. Thank you again so much for choosing me. For me, it's an honor to be here representing my Latin and Chicano part, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you.
Very much.
All right, so our second board student of the month for the month of February is Meredith Fishletter. To say that Meredith is a stellar student would be putting it lightly. As I reviewed her transcript, it seems she has taken just about every AP and honors course at Vintage and earned an A in every single one. Her academic passions clearly lie in the STEM field. This is obvious as you review her academic record, but also as you just sit down and engage with Meredith about what's on her mind and where she's investing her energy. Meredith's academic accomplishments and interests are one of the reasons that she has been admitted to, and I hear, as of yesterday, decided to attend NYU in the fall with a focus in biochemical engineering. In addition to her academic pursuits, Meredith has been involved in a variety of clubs during her 4 years at Vintage. Her favorite being the Ceramics Club that supported her in AP 3D Studio Art. Ceramics and art, and actually, as it turns out, also baking, apparently she bakes everything from macaroons to breads to cakes to pies, has always been a creative outlet for her otherwise math and science focused mind. During her junior year, Meredith served her Vintage community as an avid tutor, for which we are always grateful. Meredith says that she will miss the nature of our student body, a close-knit community where students are supported and adults are always around helping out. Knowing Meredith, I'm sure she will find and cultivate community within her new NYU home in the fall. Although we will miss her for sure, I am so excited for your future. We are so proud of you, Meredith. And now I present to you Meredith Fishletter.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Good evening, NVUSD Board of Education, Superintendent Dr. Masetti, district members, and educators. I am truly honored to be a part of just a handful of students who received the Board Student of the Month Award. And although my hard work and diligence is just one of the reasons as to why I am here today, I can say with absolute certainty that without the support and encouragement from my friends, family, teachers, and other NVUSD faculty members, I would not be nearly as successful and accomplished. Tonight, I have picked 3 NVUSD staff members whose guidance and teaching have been a vital aspect to my academic career and my journey to a higher education. I'd like to start by thanking my chemistry teacher, Mrs. Castellazzo. Before her class during sophomore year, I had never been exposed to a chemistry class. I knew going into this class I wanted to pursue a career in STEM, but she further enlightened me on the endless possibilities within science and further strengthened my passion and motivation to work for this reality. Her class and teaching expanded my interest in chemistry and thus led me to pursue a career in a biochemical setting, where I plan to explore the possibilities and opportunities in medicine. Additionally, the support she has given me throughout the 3 years I've known her is unparalleled when compared to the majority of my other teachers. She is just one of a very few who have inspired me to reach as far as I could and helped ground me when I needed it. She has forever changed my love and passion for science, and the experience gained in her class continues to inspire and motivate me within my day-to-day life. Another teacher whose support has been a contributing factor to my success in high school is my math teacher, Mr. Merkner. Being someone who has loved math and science for a large portion of my life, Mr. Merkner's class revived this interest. In the years leading up to his class, I have felt lost and defeated in math. Not only was he able to motivate and re-inspire me, but he was able to do so through the challenges posed by distance learning. Mr. Merkner has been someone I have grown to trust at school and someone who is always willing to humor the random questions and discussion points I may have during class. Throughout his teaching and impact within my academic career, he has further verified my interest in engineering and indirectly helped me see that that is the career I am fit for. I owe him a lot of my academic confidence to Mr. Merkner and his teaching, through which I have learned how to learn and be confident in my ability to understand the material I've been taught. The last person I would like to highlight is my counselor, Mrs. Watkins. She has been a keystone aspect to my success during my time at Vintage, and without her, I would not be anywhere near as successful and academically confident as I am today. She has encouraged me through thick and thin, and when I couldn't be confident myself, she was confident for me. She listened when I struggled and guided me through times of uncertainty or unclarity. She brought needed perspective into my life when I was too blinded by my own goals of perfection. She helped to keep me grounded and sane throughout my 4 years at Vintage, and when the time came to think about college, she only encouraged me further to reach my fullest potential. Her support has been a fundamental part of my academic career and building who I am today. Without her influence in my life, I can say with confidence that I would not be here today to accept this honor. Thank you again, NVUSD Board of Education, Dr. Masetti, and district leaders for choosing me as one of the board students of the month. I have worked extremely hard throughout my time in school, and being given the chance to say thank you for such a distinguished opportunity is truly an honor. However, none of this would have been possible without the support and encouragement of my friends, family, teachers, and other NVUSD staff members who have largely been a part of my academic journey.
Now we welcome our students from American Canyon High School and Principal Lopez.
Good evening. Do we have our slide for our first student from American Canyon? Thank you. Our first student, Marielle Elise Manio. She was nominated by Miss Vu, and Marielle is an extraordinary young lady with passion and love for others and spread her joy and spunk to everyone she meets. She adds so much to every club, organization, and community that she's in and leads with compassion, dedicating countless hours to making our school and community a better place. Marielle is currently serving as our Key Club president, where she leads weekly officer and member meetings, empowers her officer board with information and tools to become strong leaders, and connects with other clubs in our division to share ideas and collaborate.
She also looks for or creates social service and fundraising opportunities for our members to participate. Due to the strength of her leadership, our club has set new records, such as a cumulative 5,141 community service hours served by our 73 members and $1,636 fundraised for our preferred charity called the Pediatric Trauma Program, which aims to prevent injury or trauma to children, ensuring that all children live happy, healthy, and safe lives. At the district convention, our club was recognized as a distinguished club of the district due to her leadership. Marielle also serves as one of the spirit coordinators in our division, where she connects with 13 other high schools in our division to make Key Club a fun and spirited place where members feel connected to one another and their vision shared of serving their communities. Besides her role in the Key Club, Marielle also serves as the president of our school's board games club called Tabletops Club. As the president, Marielle has made it a welcoming space for all students to come together to play face-to-face games, such as board games, card games, and role-playing games, such as Dungeons and Dragons. And she takes such joy in setting up campaigns for the members as their dungeon master. She, along with the other officers, put on game nights that are open to the whole entire school, where students can come together to enjoy food, have fun, and make friends. Marielle is also an enthusiastic link crew leader who goes above and beyond her responsibilities. Besides leading orientation and visiting the freshmen in their classes once a month to share lessons with their students, Marielle attends all the planning meetings to plan activities and events for the freshmen to ensure their connectivity to the school. Along with others, she's helped plan and execute events such as Freshman Kickback Movie Night, Freshman Squid Games, gingerbread decorating contests, and is currently planning a paint party night to allow freshmen to share their creativity. Besides being a strong leader in all those capacities, Marielle just shines wherever she is at and makes the room lighter and happier. She enjoys singing and is a part of our school's chamber choir, loves to perform, and won the Poetry Out Loud competition her freshman year. She's an advocate for those who struggle with mental health and stands up for those who are in the LGBTQ community. She is truly a great human being. Congratulations, Marielle.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. Welcome.
All right. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Marielle Manuel, and I am a senior at American Canyon High School. I would first like to start out by saying thank you to the superintendent and the board for considering me for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. Honestly, if my younger self heard that I was nominated for this, she wouldn't have believed me. When I was younger, I didn't believe in myself at all. I magnified every flaw I had and felt unwanted in my community because who likes the weird kid anyway? I remember always wandering the playground alone, barely interacting with anyone because I was afraid of failure and rejection. I still am. But then middle school came and I found friends that would change my life. There were two different groups. I credit my upperclassmen friends especially for helping me break out of my shell. They befriended me despite me being younger with welcoming, supportive arms. They are alumni now, many in colleges far away, but I will always remember them. Without them, I wouldn't have such confidence today. And then there's the group of friends that are the same age as me, have grown up with me, and will eventually walk the stage with me. Friends that share the same interests as me. We were all and still are weird kids, but these weird kids found other weird kids. They are practically my second family now. Thanks to them, I have a home. And it's not just my friends. I thank the communities I'm involved with at school because they have truly shaped my identity. Key Club, Tabletops, Creative Writing Club, Link Crew, and Chamber Choir. These groups have especially made the senior year extraordinary. Thanks to them, I have learned to be a leader and have eventually taken up a leadership role in all of these groups, something my younger self would never dream of. And of course, there are the adults in my life. My teachers, especially Miss Vu and Mr. Butler, who's my choir director, who truly saw me for who I am and nurtured me in my educational path. And of course, my family, my older brothers and my mom were there with me through it all. I still have my insecurities, but they don't scream in my ears anymore. And that weird kid part of me is still there, but instead of being hidden away, it is embraced. Today, I accept this Student of the Month nomination in honor of everyone I have ever loved. They have made me into a mosaic of their love and nurture. Even though it's misshapen and non-uniform, it's still a beautiful collage of colors. So again, thank you so much. I am truly grateful for this nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Marielle. And you're not a weird kid, you're our kid, and we love all of you. And we have our second nominated Student of the Month, Beza Mesfin. Beza was nominated by her leadership teacher, Ms. Harris, and her counselor, Ms. Zamed. Beza is a delightful young woman who is highly respected by peers and faculty alike. In addition to her academic strengths, she is also highly involved in extracurricular activities and a valued member of American Canyon community, as seen in the various organizations that she is a part of, and more significantly, the relationships she maintains within them. Currently, Beza serves as the ASB Vice President and has been involved in ACHS leadership since her freshman year, a role that she takes seriously and with immense pride. She was the class of 2022's Vice President in both her sophomore and junior years, during which she ran the class social media account, planned and promoted events and fundraisers, and encouraged all students to get involved in school extracurricular activities. Beza is also the co-founder and treasurer of the ACHS Women in STEM Club, where she helps lead weekly Zooms, does outreach to local elementary and middle schools in order to get them involved in STEM events, and finds current leaders in the STEM world to guest share their own personal stories in order to encourage and inspire young women to not shy away from careers in the STEM field. Additionally, Beza is a member of the Mu Alpha Theta Math Honor Society, the National Honor Society, the Science National Honor Society, the Medical Club, the Napa Schools for Climate Action Coalition, as well as participated on the cheer team for 3 years. It is no surprise that Beza is slated to be the valedictorian of her class of 410 students, an honor she has earned all on her own. Congratulations, Beza. Oh, might I mention, she's one of our only students who also accepted.
Crystal, your internet is going in and out. Principal Lopez, pardon me.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Okay. Could you repeat just the last this, please?
Yes.
Principal Lopez, we can bring the student on now.
Thank you, Principal Lopez, for that introduction, and thank you, Superintendent and the board, for this honor. My name is Beza, and I'm a senior at American Canyon High School. I'm truly grateful that throughout my time at ACHS, I've had teachers who believed in me and what I could accomplish. I would like to make a special shout out to Ms. Harris, who has been my leadership teacher for the past 4 years and has fostered my growth every step of the way. Stepping into her classroom as a freshman, I was in awe at the students surrounding me who were natural leaders eager to serve their community. Although I was new to the school back then, Ms. Harris and my peers pushed me to take on leadership roles that challenged me to develop skills of flexibility, collaboration, and initiative. Thank you, Ms. Harris, for seeing something in me and allowing me this space to grow. I continue to live by the lessons I've learned in leadership, and I will treasure our relationship even after the end of high school. I would also like to highlight Mr. Ike, Mr. Atkinson, Ms. Med, and my family and friends, whose words of encouragement have uplifted me and whose support has meant so much to me throughout my academic career. All my pursuits have in common an enthusiasm to learn and discover ways I can better my community. Through my roles as Student Body Vice President, President of Women in STEM Club, and Treasurer of both Mu Alpha Theta and Science National Honor Society, I'm able to not only interact with my interests on a deeper level, but also to create an environment that is welcoming of other students to pursue their passions as well. In this time of great division we've experienced during and after quarantine, I find great pleasure in being a part of a driving force at my school that encourages our unity. I hope to continue my community outreach in the future at UCLA as a biochemistry major. I enjoy speaking to you all, and I thank you again for this recognition. Thank you.
Thank you, Beza. I apologize for that. I was on the network that's for the back of the house, so it was disconnecting. And she shared that she got into UCLA, so that was what we wanted to share.
That's fantastic. Once again, congratulations to all of our deserving students. Okay, public comments on non-agenda items. Members of the audience may address the board on any school-related matter that is not on the agenda. The board will not take action on any issue raised during this section of the agenda inasmuch as board action is limited to posted agenda items. Speakers are requested to limit their comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. All of the cards I have here are on agendized items. So, Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment on non-agenda items?
Yes, we do. First speaker is Norma Ortiz. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Welcome, Ms. Ortiz. We can hear you.
Hi, thank you. Hello, good evening. Congratulations to our now appointed effective 2022 and moving forward bilingual staff, Spanish speakers, Redwood Middle School Principal, Mr. Peter Hartnick, and Willow Elementary Principal, Ms. Martha Franco. As a Redwood Middle School parent, I would like to continue to see the following principal qualities: effective communication, empathy, excellent people skills, visibility and connection with alumni, parents, and staff, innovation and quality of programs and services that adequately promotes critical thinking skills to ensure college and career readiness for all of our students. On the other hand, as a parent, we deserve appropriate DLAC Wested trainings to better support our roles as representatives in all contexts. As a DLAC parent member, including what other parents have voiced in this respect and who are holding a role as observed in several DLAC meeting recordings, would like this item to be considered in the near future to better support such positions in the best interest of the education of our students. I recently attended the One Pill Can Kill Fentanyl Poisoning Awareness Free Community Virtual Town Hall hosted today at 6 p.m. It was very informative. In this note, I would like to see that our district continues to support all efforts to raise awareness related to poisoning and fentanyl intoxication deaths, which according to their data have increased. Early detection and prevention in our schools and in the community. As part of our health and safety priorities as a district, of course, age-appropriate information related to these important topics, recognizing overdose. I learned about the topic of implied malice murder. Youth mental health discussion groups and prevention community campaigns in this topic are crucial, just like recognizing dangers and warning signs, diverse presentations, and boosting confidence in to all our students. Thank you for considering these topics.
Michaels, do we have any additional public comment?
There's no further public comment.
Trustee Water, did we have any public comment on non-agenda items received via email at publiccomment@nvusd.org?
We did not.
Thank you very much.
480.
Board of Education and Student Board Representative Reports. Student Board Member Bitt, would you like to start us off this evening?
Yes, please. Okay, so first things first, happy early Earth Day, everybody. I wanted to start off by saying congratulations to all of the students of the month. It's always really inspiring to hear and learn from my peers who are doing so many great things for our community and our society at large. But special congratulations to Beza Mesfin, as she's been one of my closest friends since kindergarten. And I feel like her leadership in peer courts and her work in unifying our school's community emerging from the pandemic are just a couple of the things that she's done in the past 4 years. And I'm just so proud of her and all that she's accomplished. On another note, on Wednesday, April 6th, I had the opportunity to present to the St. Helena Active Transportation and Sustainability Committee. They were interested in hearing about the student-led gas station initiatives that have been taking place in our county and just how St. Helena can get more involved in climate action from a transportation standpoint. So that was a very a fun presentation, and I'm excited to see what happens moving forward. And I also wanted to mention that tomorrow, in honor of Earth Day, Napa Schools for Climate Action is launching our second annual Our Future is in Your Hands climate contest. It's a contest that we invite all high school students in Napa County to participate in. And our theme of the year is current world events. And actually, some of the Student of the Months were finalists in the contest last year. So that was a nice connection. But that concludes my report for today.
Thank you very much. Trustee Dooley.
Thank you. It's been a month since our last business meeting and the last report. And I haven't actually, aside from the special meetings, which we've had quite a few since then, I haven't had a lot of district work. It makes it sound like I haven't been doing a lot, which I know kind of personally and as on a kind of stress level, I know not to be true, but I don't have anything to report.
That's fine. We've had plenty of special meetings to take up your time. Trustee Chu.
So I'm actually on the opposite end of the spectrum. I attended the Equity and Inclusivity Council meeting. Thank you to Ms. Jessica Rennie and Ms. Nancy Nord-Kanagi for inviting me. I went to, that was on the 24th of March. On March 30th, I attended the American Canyon Nights Out night that was put on by ACHS leadership class. Thank you to our board rep, our student board rep, Emily Bitt, for being one of the coordinators of that. It was a great event. I think all of American Canyon was out on the quad of ACHS that day, that night. I then attended the Vintage High School Mamma Mia production with a couple of my fellow trustees on the 1st of April. Also attended Coffee with the Superintendent at ACHS on the 5th. And then that night also attended the ELAC meeting for ACMS ACHS. Had a facilities tour of ACMS and Donaldson Way on the 6th, along with trustees Reiser and Gracia. And I attended the ACHS site visit with Dr. Masetti on the 7th, along with the coffee with Principal Battalier at ACMS. On the 8th, I had the pleasure of being at the Canyon Oaks Elementary School new digital marquee ribbon cutting ceremony. And thank you to Canyon Oaks PTO for fundraising for that beautiful sign that now illuminates one of our great schools. And last night I attended ACMS open house, which is great to be on campus, and feedback from all the teachers were that they were very happy to be in person. So that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Trustee Gonzalez-Morris.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I couldn't attend a couple of the meetings, but I certainly tried to make that up with kicking off my site visits to many of the schools. And I decided to start with the schools that presented at the celebrations meetings that we had earlier. And so I want to thank Principal Jordan for his time with the Napa Valley Adult Education. Just very inspiring to see all the great work that's happening there with many of the career paths. And so we dove into that, and I appreciate his time walking me through all of that. I also want to thank Principal Perkins for a tour in Willow School, and I also had a chance to now our soon-to-be principal at Willow with Principal Franco at Harvest Middle School, and it was important for me to step into that campus and connect with her as we took a walk around the campus. And I also want to thank Principal Cole for having me walk through memory lane at Silverado Middle School a bit. I actually met, and she will always be Mrs. Garcia to me. She's married and now has a different last name, but those individuals that change your life, right? And she was definitely one of those. Ms. Garcia was a connector, and she would follow up and just really was a true, it was really special for me come full circle in a way as a school board member to see her there. And so I really appreciated that very much. But and I got to see Trustee Gracia's daughter in action in one of the classrooms. So I also attended at Redwood Middle School with Principal Christofferson with coffee with the superintendent, and just looking forward to my ongoing site visits to the other schools.
Yes, thank you. Let's see, not a ton to report. On April 1st, I really enjoyed the performance of Vintage High School's Mamma Mia, the musical. Attended with Trustee Chu and Water, and that was a great show. April 5th was the American Canyon 2x2 Committee meeting. And let's see, April 6th, I enjoyed a facilities tour with Trustees Chu and Gracia. We looked around Donaldson Way, and then also had a really exciting sort of peek at the really impressive action of the construction of the ACMS Student Commons. And it was my first time ever wearing a hard hat and an orange safety vest. So that put that one in the books. And then I also attended the Canyon Oaks Elementary School dedication of their electric sign, their digital marquee. And it was just really inspiring and neat to see the parents gathering to celebrate, you know, what a really impressive contribution that they made to the school through their fundraising. So thank you. Special shout out to the Canyon Oaks PTO for our former treasurers, now our fellow trustee Chu. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Reiser. Trustee Water.
Well, yes, as you have heard, I went to see Mamma Mia, which was absolutely great with a couple of show-stopping scenes. And I also went to the Napa County Office of Education meeting that was riveting. And I went to coffee with the superintendent yesterday, and over spring break, I revisited my roots and flew to Charleston, West Virginia. So that was my vacation.
Thank you. Trustee Gracia?
Yes, on the 5th, I attended coffee with the superintendent at American Canyon High School. And then on the 6th, as has been mentioned, I toured Donaldson Way Elementary and observed the new construction happening at American Canyon Middle School for the student commons. It's looking quite impressive. On the 8th, I attended the ribbon cutting ceremony for the new marquee at Canyon Oaks Elementary. And then on the 19th, another coffee with the superintendent at Redwood Middle School.
Thank you very much. I too enjoyed the VHS production of Mamma Mia. I do want to just take a moment to acknowledge the celebration of schools that board meeting, special board meeting we had the privilege of hearing 7 schools present during that board meeting, and it's always an honor to hear, from the actual school sites, celebrating their work. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. I too went to a coffee at Redwood Middle School, coffee with the superintendent, and I was invited to a here and now luncheon of retired teachers that had taught at Westwood Elementary School before it converted to NBLA. And they wanted to share kind of the transition of how they saw it. It was quite fascinating. The world of education has changed dramatically in 35 years. So thank you. Dr. Masetti. Board Representative Report, Special Education Community Advisory Committee.
Yes, we met on, let's see, back on the 21st of March, and we mainly reviewed the NVUSD LCAP.
And City of American Canyon?
That meeting we met on the 5th of April, and we just continue discussions on property.
Thank you. City of Napa?
We have not met.
And Town of Yountville?
It's been nearly 15 months since last we met.
Thank you very much, Trustee Gracia. And now, Dr. Masetti.
Great. Thank you, President Jankwitz. I'm actually going to go a little bit in reverse order from what we typically do. I'm going to start with the assistant superintendents tonight. So I am going to start off with Assistant Superintendent Mike Pearson, who is our Assistant Superintendent of Operational Services.
I am honored I get to go first today. This is awesome. Thank you, Dr.
You're welcome,
Masetti.
Mr. Pearson.
I'm usually last. So good evening, President Jankwitz, NVUSD Board of Education, trustees, Dr. Masetti, Student Board Representative Emily Bitt, and the NVUSD community. Thank you for the opportunity to provide you with an update of operational services. In food service, I'd like to share that NOSH has had its highest monthly revenue for the 21-22 school year. The month of March, food service revenue providing breakfast and lunch to NVUSD students exceeded $865,000, which is a tremendous amount. Again, I'd like to thank the Director of Food Service, Kristen Tico, and the entire food service department for their leadership, ensuring the demand for student meals is met every day. In addition, the food service department was recently awarded a $325,000 grant from the California Department of Education for kitchen infrastructure and training funds. These funds are intended to increase access to fresh, nutritious meals by upgrading kitchen equipment and/or training staff on promoting nutritious meals. NOSH was also recently at the Napa Farmers Market on Saturday, April 2nd, promoting NOSH along with offering the community to make free tea bags with locally sourced herbs from Harvest Middle School Garden. Thank you to Rosie Mendoza, Joe Aurora, Karen Fleming, and Kristen Tico for representing NVUSD NOSH. Finally, the week of May 2nd through 6th is School Lunch Hero Week, and Friday, May 6th is celebrating all NVUSD food service employees during the School Lunch Heroes. So please consider acknowledging one or more of our fantastic hardworking food service employees during this time period. Thank you. The Transportation Department is busy setting routes, bus routes for the 22-23 school year, including the new bus routes to serve students from Harvest Middle School who will be attending Redwood, Silverado, and or Unitas Middle School. And also on Tuesday, April 26th, next Tuesday, is School Bus Driver Appreciation Day. Again, please consider giving a shout out to one or more of our dedicated transportation employees. I'm also excited to announce that later tonight, the Board of Education will take action on recommendation to approve 4 new members to our Measure H Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. We've been actively seeking new members since several of our current committee members will be terming out in November of 2022. It's encouraging that there are committee members willing to serve on this very important volunteer, and I'll stress volunteer committee. As a side note, NVUSD is always looking for additional members to serve on the Measure H Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. If you're interested and you're listening tonight, please you can learn more about the committee by visiting the school district website and clicking on the Measure H tab on the bottom right hand of the web page. And lastly, on May 4th, and that's not like May 4th be with you, but May 4th, at 5:30 p.m., School Planning and Construction will be hosting the grand opening of Napa Junction Elementary School that we would hope to have done a long time ago, but we will be doing that. Again, that's on May 4th at 5:30. And this concludes my report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pearson. We'll now proceed with Assistant Superintendent Pat Andrew Jennings, who oversees the Instructional Services Division.
Good evening, President Jankwitz, Board Trustees, Student Representative Bitt, Dr. Masetti, and the NVUSD community. Right before spring break, our NVUSD Student Advisory Council, after working with Dr. Victor Rios since January, presented information to district leaders on the needs and experiences of our students. The students eloquently shared about how mental health issues over the past few years have impacted their learning. They commented on how hard it is sometimes to access a counselor. They also provided some suggestions on how we can increase their connection with each other and the adults at school through grade level team building activities, as well as offering time during the school day. District leaders listened and learned from our students to assist with planning the LCAP and learning supports for next year. We are also listening and learning from our students, from our elementary students as we make progress on the development of the TK8 pilot programs at Browns Valley and Shear. Current 5th grade students at Browns Valley and current 5th and 6th grade students at Shear were led through an input gathering session regarding their hopes for their middle school years. A theme emerged across both sites with students wanting to hold on to some of the traditions of elementary school while building opportunities for developing independence, connection, and leadership. Both schools also hosted visioning sessions with parents who shared what they are seeking in the program as we develop a vision for the ideal graduate from both Browns Valley and Shear. To assist with the transition of students in our middle schools, American Canyon, Redwood, and Silverado Middle Schools welcomed their new families on Wednesday, April 20th. Students and families met school staff and toured the school with student leaders. It was a beautiful evening as students, staff, and families gathered at their new campuses to learn about their school community, build connections, and learn about all that NVUSD middle schools have to offer, and where we ensure that students thrive. Where we ensure that students thrive socially, emotionally, and academically. We are looking forward to Unidos Middle School's Welcome Night on May 17th and more student transition events in May as we seek to support students in their transition to middle school, which is a key aspect of board priority #1 around the middle school redesign. And lastly, our NVUSD elementary summer programs currently have over 1,600 preliminary registrations completed, with more families signing up every day. Targeted in-person recruitment and registration sessions are taking place for families who may need additional support with navigating the registration process. We are eagerly awaiting the start of our engaging and robust summer programs in June. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Assistant Superintendent Rob Manguala, who oversees business services.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to update the board and the community. This is the busiest time of year for the business office. The team is preparing for the interim audit visit, which will occur the week of May 9th, calculating our P2 ADA for the current year and collaborating with sites and departments to build a budget for the next year. The enrollment team continues to assist families with school registrations for 2022-23. Review of interdistrict transfer requests are underway as we welcome and encourage out-of-district families to join NVUSD. The technology department has been hard at work on our network upgrade project, improving the network hardware and infrastructure at all of our school sites, with 8 sites already having been completed. We have deployed over 4,000 Chromebooks to secondary school sites to support state testing and cycle out older non-compliant devices, and continue to provide our staff and students with world-class tech support to keep our mini systems running smoothly. The data and assessment department is busy supporting sites with spring state testing. We are well on our way to testing nearly 3,600 students on the LPAC exam, and sites are beginning CASP testing this week after nearly 3 years without it due to the COVID pandemic. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Manguala. And next we'll hear from Assistant Superintendent Dana Page, who oversees the Human Resources Division.
Thank you. Good evening, President Jankowicz, Board of Trustees, Dr. Masetti, and Student Board Representative Bitt. Well, it's April and we are knee deep in hiring for next school year. I was very excited about all of our appointments this evening, and especially our 2 principal appointments, which you've heard earlier, Mr. Peter Hartnick at Redwood Middle School and Ms. Martha Franco at Willow Elementary. We currently have 4 other principal positions open and in various stages in our process. And like other school districts, it has been more challenging than ever to find great applicants. But we have continued to keep our standards very high, and we won't stop until we find the very best for NVUSD, even if we have to post and repost. So I want to thank my recruiting team, Elizabeth Gonzalez, Gina DeLuca, Mary Jarecki, who have been in overdrive with all of these postings and really getting out there and trying to find great applicants. I also want to thank Matt Manning and Monica Reddy, the hiring managers for elementary and secondary leadership positions, and all of the panelists from the various schools who have given their input and helped us assess the candidates. Throughout our process, we include a lot of stakeholders, specifically certificated and classified site team members, students, parents, community members, and district leaders. We do this through focus groups, digital surveys in English and Spanish, and diverse representation on at least 2 different panels. Our process is very comprehensive, and it has helped us find and promote some great managers. I'm also happy to report that since our last board meeting, we have placed all of the teachers from River and Harvest Middle Schools into new assignments for next year. I want to thank them for their patience and trust as we worked through the seniority list. I think overall people landed in spots that they're happy about, and we can now look forward to next year. I really need to thank Roseanne Crandall from my office, who made numerous phone calls and emails to make all of that happen. And finally, we have 2 staff spotlights, which went in our all divisions newsletter newsletter recently, and it can be found archived on our district website. So first was Sarah Mendez, and Sarah got a shout out earlier from the Student of the Month, Luis Ramirez Soto. Sarah Mendez was nominated by staff of Vintage High School for her incredible work with English language learners as a bilingual instructional assistant. During distance learning last year, she zoomed into ELD and sheltered classes and translated into Spanish what each teacher was saying for 6 periods a day. She is well respected by the students and is a positive role model for each of them. We also featured Gloria Maravilla, the family and community-minded liaison with a long history of service at Napa Valley Language Academy. In fact, Gloria got her start volunteering as a junior and senior when she was in high school, back when NVLA was Westwood. Today, she describes her work as heart work, and she enjoys knowing that she makes a difference for families in need. We're so lucky to have both of these amazing employees. And this concludes my report. Thank you.
Page. I'm going to go ahead and do mine. So good evening, NVUSD trustees, staff, families, and community. I hope that everyone had a wonderful, joyful, and restful spring break. I know it was much needed and well-deserved. I spent the week with my family and took my first real vacation after nearly 2 years. So I was grateful to have the time as we approached the last stretch of the 2021-2022 school year. I want to thank all of the parents who've attended the first 2 coffees with the superintendent, the events that were hosted at American Canyon High School and Redwood Middle School, mentioned by some of the trustees. Thank you to the Principals Lopez and Christofferson for hosting. It's been great to have these informal, intimate conversations with parents to hear what is top of mind for them. It's just been phenomenal getting in the room with people again. Thank you to the trustees again, who've also been able to join me. I think making connections in these smaller contexts with our NVUSD parents presents a great opportunity to listen and learn from our parents and community members. We have 3 more coffees with the superintendent sessions on the calendar in the next month. We'll see you at Browns Valley, Shear, and Silverado, and they're open to any parents across the district. They don't have to be parents from those respective schools. In addition to these more informal community engagement events, I also would like to announce that our annual State of the District event is scheduled finally in person for Wednesday, May 18th at 9 a.m. We're excited again to finally get to have this event in person at the Napa High School gym, while also providing a live stream option for virtual attendance, which will be open to the public. So stay tuned for more details regarding this larger scale community event where we plan to communicate and celebrate our progress on the district's strategic plan, while also sharing our vision for continuing to move the district forward as we create an educational system focused on excellence and equity for all students. I'm also really excited tonight. It just went out in our family newsletter. I know this has been sort of long awaited by many, knowing that there were transitions in the horizon around our start times for the 22-23 school year. So NVUSD elementary schools will all have an aligned start and end time, which has not historically been the case. Different schools have had different start and end times at the elementary level. This change will provide consistency for families and allow for more streamlined transportation of students. With middle schools and high schools also aligning start times, families with students at the multiple levels, elementary, middle, and high, will have space between drop-off time so all students can arrive safely and on time for school. So the start and end times, I'll just announce them tonight. Again, our families will receive this in the family newsletter that went out this evening. Transitional kindergarten and 1st through 5th grade will have an 8:05 start time. And that will also include the 6th, 7th graders that are at Shear and the 6th graders that are at Browns Valley in our K-8 pilot at our K-8 pilot school. So 8:05 start time. Middle schools will be starting at 8:25 next year, and our high schools will actually be starting at 8:35. So I want to just commend, this has been an extraordinary amount of work between transportation, instructional services, working with NVEA. So thank you, Human Resource. Thanks to everyone who's made contributions to getting those start times ready for the 22-23 school year. I'm also very excited, super excited about this, to share about a new series that I asked our communications team to develop called This is for you, Trustee Water. Meet the Graduates. This new series will highlight the positive stories of college attainment in our district. This has been a long-standing request of Trustee Cindy Water. I think she's been requesting this and actually took care of it herself before she was a board member as a member of the public. Is that right, Trustee Water?
Yes, I wrote a letter to the editor.
So to celebrate the achievements and future plans of graduating seniors, we're launching this new series of short stories about this year's class of 2022 graduates. We have our first one featured in our parent newsletter that went out tonight. Also will be on NVUSD News on our website. And we are celebrating, asking you to meet the American Canyon High School graduate, Kyla Martin. Now, next year, Kyla will be attending Howard University in Washington, D.C. She's excited about the opportunity at Howard to network and pursue all of her career opportunities and dreams. Her goal is to one day build up and market her own business. This is just one example of these exceptional stories. We heard them tonight too, and with our Students of the Month. The stories of our students' success are the best stories for us to tell as an organization. So lastly, why I wanted to go last tonight. I have some very sad news to share with our community. NVUSD lost an amazing educator to breast cancer yesterday. Erin Soper, first grade teacher at Willow Elementary, passed away yesterday after a battle with breast cancer. Erin was an amazing elementary educator. She worked for 16 years from 1997 to 2013 at McPherson Elementary. And from 2013 to the present, 9 years combined at what was El Centro, and then evolved into the amazing school focused on artful learning, Willow Elementary. She was an integral member of the Willow community, loved and respected by her colleagues, the students and families of the Willow community, and really as an NVUSD staff member at large. The Soper family is an NVUSD family. Her husband, John, teaches at Browns Valley. So we know the BV community is also grieving this loss and feeling the pain. Our condolences to the family. During my own battle with breast cancer, Erin was an angel who sent me kind, compassionate, and encouraging messages of sisterhood and support. On behalf of the Napa Valley Unified School District, I want to let the Soper family know that they are in our thoughts and prayers. President Jankowicz, I would request that we take a moment of silence in honor of Erin in recognition of the impact her meaningful life has had on so many here in the NVUSD community.
Absolutely. So take a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Thank you. Difficult sometimes to, excuse me, transition to business. Background information on consent agenda items is provided to the board prior to the meeting. A common motion takes action without discussion on a roll call vote unless discussion of items is requested by the board. May I get a motion to approve consent agenda, please?
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by Trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment on any of the consent agenda items?
Yes, we do. First speaker is Norma Ortiz. Go ahead, please.
I just wanted to appreciate and thank Ms. Page, and just echoing on the comment Dr. Masetti mentioned about the diligence and care in the hiring process in terms of key leadership applicants for principal positions. Sorry?
I'm for interrupting, but your comment has to be on one of the
consent. My apology.
Thank you. Mr. Michaels, do we have any other public comment?
There is no more public comment.
Sarah, will we please get a roll call vote?
Yes.
Student Board Member Bitt,
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz,
Aye.
Trustee Gracia,
Aye.
Trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Reiser,
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares,
Aye.
Trustee Shu,
Aye.
Trustee Dooley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vera. Moving on to presentations and discussion items. Our first presentation under General Services is Napa Valley Unified School District Bond Feasibility Presentation. Mr. Tim McLarney from True North will present this evening. Welcome, Mr. McLarney.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. I'm Tim McLarney. I'm president of True North Research, and tonight it's my pleasure to present to you the results of it's actually two surveys that we conducted side by side for the district, where we're going to be looking at voters' reactions to and support levels for two bond measures, one for the Napa SFID and one for American Canyon. I believe there's a PowerPoint presentation that's going to be run from your end. There we go. And as I go through this presentation, I welcome questions from the board as I go, or at the end, whichever is your preference. So next slide, please. So before we actually talk about the results of the surveys, it's helpful to take a moment to review the purpose of the study and the methodology. In terms of the purpose of the study, as a revenue measure feasibility study, we're really trying to address the three bullets you see here on the slide. The first is to understand that if the board were to choose to place a measure on an upcoming ballot, is it feasible? What I mean by that, does that bond measure have a reasonable chance of success? The answer to that question is always yes. Sometimes we do this work, and no matter how we look at the data, we can't see an opportunity to get you from where you are today to where you need to be on election day to be successful. And if that's the case, I'll be the first person to tell you that. When we do find that it's feasible to move forward with some type of measure, the next bullet kicks in gear, which is how do we go about structuring a measure in a way that it's consistent with the type of measure that your community is interested in supporting. There's lots of components to a bond. There's the price tag, how much is it going to cost? There's the types of projects that would be funded. There's accountability provisions that are part of that measure. And so a lot of decisions that the board would have to make in terms of how you would go about structuring this measure before you put it on the ballot, the survey can help guide. And then finally, the survey is an opportunity for us to understand the importance of information to your voters and to gather information that will help with communication and outreach moving forward. I'm a big believer that if a public agency is going to take the step of putting a measure on the ballot and asking voters to make an important decision, it's really incumbent upon that agency to inform and educate voters about the decision you're asking them to make. As a public agency, you're not advocating up or down on this measure. You're simply giving voters the facts and the information they need to make a well-informed decision. Next slide, please. So in terms of the methodology, survey was conducted in February of this year. We wound up speaking with 834 individuals that are what we call likely November 2022 voters. These are individuals who, based on their voting history, when they registered, as well as their demographics, we would expect to actually cast ballots in this upcoming November election. The sample that we use is we use a methodology called stratified and clustered random sampling. I can get into the details of that if you like, but suffice to say, what it guarantees is that at the end of our data collection period, we have a sample that is representative of that likely November universe on all the dimensions that we know are related to voting behavior. So things like age, gender, partisanship, how all of those characteristics that tend to shape how people will vote on tax measures. We make sure that our sample has the correct proportions of all those. And so it's representative of that larger November 2022 universe. Once individuals were recruited to participate, we recruited them via email, text, and telephone. They were given the option to participate by telephone or online at a password protected website. And the survey was conducted in English and Spanish. Now, because we're looking at two SFID bonds, we split our sample. So the larger SFID, which is Napa, not including Yountville or American Canyon, the sample size for that group was 606 interviews. that has a margin of error of about ±4%. The American Canyon SFID, smaller number of voters, we wound up surveying 228 individuals in that SFID, and the overall margin of error there is about ±6.4%. Next slide, please. Okay, so on to the results. This first slide here shows the results, and you can see, by the way, because there's two surveys, I'm going to bounce back and forth between Napa SFID and American Canyon. So you'll see typically Napa first, and then the American Canyon one right after that. But at the outset of the interview, we present to voters our importance of issues questions. So for each of the issues you see there on that slide, we simply ask voters to tell us, how important is this to you? Is it extremely important or very important, somewhat important, or not at all important? We present the issues in a random order for every respondent, but they are sorted from high to low here based on that combined percentage of folks who said it's either extremely or very important. We asked this question for a couple of reasons. One, it's just a great warm-up question. It gets voters thinking about local issues at the beginning of the interview, but it is also an opportunity for us to understand how the issue of improving the quality of education in public schools in particular stacks up against other issues that also compete for tax dollars. And in particular, how does that issue stack up against the issue of preventing local tax increases? It's kind of a rough rule of thumb, but it makes a lot of sense. The more importance that your voters place on the issue of improving the quality of education in local schools relative to the issue of preventing local tax increases, the better positioned you are to move forward with some type of measure that's related to education. And so we do see here in Napa that the #1 issue in the community was improving the quality of education in local public schools. We had 84% of respondents tell us that that was extremely very important, followed by maintaining local streets and roads and then protecting the environment. You go all the way to the bottom of the list there, you see preventing local tax increases at 56%. That gap from the top to the bottom is 28%. It's actually a little larger than what we have been seeing in the last year or two, and when we've asked this kind of question in other communities. And so that's a good size of gap. That's what we like to see. One other thing I'll mention is if you look about halfway down the list, you'll see repairing and upgrading aging school facilities. That checked in at 64%. So it's above preventing local tax increases, but it's below by about 20 points improving the quality of education in local public schools. I point that out not because it's unusual, it's a pattern that we see all the time, but it is a healthy reminder that although bonds are about buildings and facilities, they're about capital improvements, at the end of the day, what voters really care about is what those buildings and improvements are going to enable in the classroom in terms of your ability to educate students. And so we always, you know, if you're going to move forward with a bond measure, you always want to be connecting the dots between what it is you're building and improving and why it ultimately matters in terms of the quality of education and the opportunities that your students have. Next slide, please. Same question, only here it's the American Canyon respondents. You see kind of a similar pattern, top of the list, improving the quality of education in local public schools. You see preventing local tax increases towards the bottom there, repairing and upgrading aging school facilities. Not as much as a gap there, so there's perhaps a little less awareness among the American Canyon folks about the need to repair and upgrade their facilities when you compare to Napa. But again, both of these are still above that preventing local tax increases item. Next slide, please. So at this point in the poll, after that initial warm-up question, we get to the initial ballot test. And the idea is, before we get any deeper into the interview and we start talking in more detail about possible tax rates that could be associated with a bond, the types of projects that you could fund, the arguments pro and con that they may encounter during an election cycle, we want to present to respondents a mock-up of what we think that 75-word ballot statement could look like and get their reaction. It's a really good gauge of where your voters are at on the natural with respect to this proposal. So shown here is that 75-word ballot statement for the Napa SFID. And you can see in that first bullet that we make it clear that we're repairing outdated classrooms and facilities in Napa schools. So we state that clearly. And as you go down, you can see this would be a bond for about $298 million with a tax rate of 3 cents per $100 of assessed value. So that's the language that we presented for the Napa SFID. Next slide, please. And very similar language for the American Canyon SFID. Projects are slightly different, but The main difference here is obviously the size of the bond, smaller community, fewer schools. And in this case, it would be a $37 million bond levying 3 cents per $100 of assessed value. So that's the language that we tested. And if you go to the next slide, start presenting the results. So for the Napa SFID, what we found is that initial ballot test, we had 55% of respondents that said they would support this proposal. You had 34% who were opposed, and you had the remainder who were unsure. So in the state of California, for a Prop 39 bond to be successful, you need 55%. So at that initial ballot test, we are sitting right at that mark that is required for passage. Next slide, please. So I want to take a moment to kind of compare where we are today in 2022 compared to where we were in 2020. And what you see, and it was actually in 2019 when the poll was done, but in 2019, the district was looking at the potential for a bond at that point. And at that point, you can see here over on the far left-hand corner, that initial ballot test was 47%, right? It wasn't to the right where you see where we are today at 55%. So we're checking in about 7 points higher in terms of community support for this proposal today when we compare back to that 2019 timeframe. What's impressive about this, and again, I get to do this work for a lot of districts, is that in a lot of ways, the conditions are actually tougher today than they were then. And so when you look back, some of the things that are different, obviously the pandemic itself has presented some challenges, but what I would argue is more challenging about the pandemic isn't so much itself as it is when it comes to these types of bond measures, as it is the politics of the pandemic, right? This whole national debate about the pandemic, about vaccines, about masks has, unfortunately created a lot of drama in local schools because that's where this is playing out in a lot of ways. And so the pandemic and the politics of the pandemic have just heightened tensions around school districts in a way that just really weren't there prior to COVID hitting. The other thing that is, I think, different is the conditions that we find ourselves in, right? Back in 2019, prior to the pandemic, economy was going red hot, inflation wasn't there, gas prices were reasonable, right? If you look at where we're at now, obviously you have runaway inflation, you have high gas prices, and so those conditions are tougher. And then the other thing to keep in mind is that when we were looking at a 2020 bond, we were looking at a November 2020 universe. That was a very large turnout. When you compare it to the universe we're using for this poll is November 2018, that's a smaller turnout, right? You're not going to have as many voters showing up this November as you did in November 2020. Typically, when you shrink turnout, what you wind up with is a somewhat older, more conservative, more tax-adverse electorate. And so all other things being equal, you tend to find somewhat smaller somewhat lower levels of support for bond measures the more you shrink that electorate. And so despite all of those conditions that I just mentioned being tougher in 2022, we're nevertheless seeing that your support levels here have gone up 7%. That doesn't happen by accident, right? That happens because I think as a district, you've done a good job reaching out to the community, helping them understand what your facility needs are and sort of building more awareness and building more support for the idea of the need to fix schools. And so you've made a lot of progress and you've kind of swimming upstream in the last 2 years. And I just wanted to point that out. Next slide, please. So the initial ballot test now for American Canyon checked in at 56%, so slightly higher than the Napa Valley. And so that's about 1 point above that 55% threshold we need to be successful. Next slide, please. So one of the sort of selling features of an SFID is that all the money stays within the boundaries of an SFID, right? And so only those voters in that SFID will vote on this. They are the only ones who would be taxed if that bond passes, and all the money stays there. And so as part of the survey right after the initial ballot test, we made it clear to voters first here in Napa Valley that all the money of the measure I just described would be spent repairing and improving local schools in the city of Napa and surrounding unincorporated areas. None of the funds will be spent in American Canyon. Knowing this, would you vote yes or no? Interestingly, what you see with the Napa Valley voters is that doesn't seem to matter all that much. I mean, we were at 55% on the initial ballot test. We're at 55% with that clarification. For the next slide, though, you'll see same basic argument for Napa Valley. I mean, sorry, for American Canyon. In American Canyon, it seems to matter a lot to voters. So when we explain to them that all the money for the measure would be spent repairing and improving local schools in American Canyon and that none of the funds would be spent in Napa or elsewhere, we see a big boost in interest and support for this proposal among among American Canyon voters. Next slide, please.
Tim, can you hear us?
Excuse me?
Can you hear us, Tim?
I can now.
Just really quickly before you go to tax threshold, I do just want to clarify on the slide that you where it said Napa Valley along the top. That really was the city of Napa and the surrounding unincorporated areas.
Correct. So there's two of them. One is for Napa, the Napa SFID, and then the other one is for American Canyon.
Right, the Napa Valley kind of being the reference point. That's probably something we should a detail we should correct for the future. The Napa Valley would include the entire county, but how it was framed in the poll was city of Napa and surrounding unincorporated areas. Correct.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep. So naturally, support for a bond proposal will depend on the price tag. And so the higher you set that underlying tax rate, all other things being equal, the less support you can generally expect. And so one of the goals of the survey was to make it very clear that bonds mean taxes, in case they didn't quite catch that in the 75 words ballot statement earlier. And it was also an opportunity for us to test a series of possible tax rates and tax implications of this bond, so we get an understanding of, how sensitive voters are to that tax rate and what seems to be kind of the appropriate sort of comfort zone for your voters for a bond. And so here in the Napa SFID, we tested from $35 per 100,000 assessed valuation down to $19 per 100,000 assessed valuation. And you can see here that, as you tick down that tax rate, support builds to the point where at about $19 per 100,000, we're sitting at 52% support. This tends to be a very conservative read on voter support for a proposal for a couple of reasons. One, we are putting the blinders on a respondent and sort of not talking about all the things that the bond will accomplish, but instead focusing their attention on the cost, right? So on the price tag, not the package of things that would come with it. And so that tends to have a bit of a depressing effect on support. The other thing is, when you say that this measure is going to cost or it will increase your property taxes on your home by $19 per 100,000 assessed valuation, not all voters know what that means, right? You have to know what assessed valuation is. You have to have a good estimate of what the AV is on your property. You also have to do math pretty quickly in your head in the space of a poll. And so for some voters, that's a hurdle they can't get over. And so they know you're talking about price tag. They aren't sure what this is going to add up to. And when that's the case, they tend to hedge, right? They say no or not sure rather than yes. And so we're going to come at this a little differently here in a minute. But on the next slide, same basic result for American Canyon. Same basic question for American Canyon. We test from 35 down to 19. You can see that the sensitivity to the tax rate is a little lower for American Canyon. In other words, particularly at these lower rates, their support level is a little higher. At $19 per 100,000, for example, we had 61% of American Canyon respondents say that they would support this proposal. Next slide, please. So as I was mentioned earlier, when you convey the tax implications as a rate per 100,000, some voters are a little confused by that and they tend to hedge. And so in the space of the poll, we also come at it another way. We say, all right, let me put it another way. If you knew that this measure would cost the typical homeowner about $158 per year, that's the left column here on this slide, would you vote yes or no on the school bond measure? $158 is that $35 tax rate per 100,000 assessed valuation, multiply times the median AV for a residential property in the Napa SFID. That's how you get to $158 per year. And so what you find is that when we tested as a tax rate of $35 per 100,000 assessed, we had 44% support. When you go ahead and do the math for a respondent and you let them know that it's $158 per year for the typical owner, support jumps up to 52%. Same exercise on the right, only here we're taking that $19 per 100,000 assessed valuation tax rate, multiple times the median AV, you get $86 per year. And at $86 per year in the Napa SFID, we had 57% support. Next slide. Same analysis, only here we're working with American Canyon. And what you see here for American Canyon is a little bit higher support levels at both of those median annual costs for a typical owner. At $158 per year, we had 58% support, and at $86 per year, we had 65% support. Next slide, please. So, okay, at this point in the poll, we get to what we call our projects and improvements section. And the goal here is really twofold. One is we're now going to start to educate this respondent more about what this bond measure will accomplish. Up to this point, we've only had the 75 words in that initial ballot test to describe what this bond will do. Here we get to unpack that into all the projects you see here on the slide and test them individually. And in that way, we're A, giving this respondent a better idea of what the proposal will accomplish, and B, it allows us to understand of all the ways you can spend the money from the bond, how do voters feel about those projects, and which of these items sort of rise to the top of the list in terms of their priorities. You can see here from the slide, and this one's in Napa SFID, that everything we tested was popular with voters. Even the lowest rated item there on that list, which had to do with improvements to safety and security, had at least 70% of voters say that they would favor spending some of the money on that item. At the top of the list, though, what you see is a kind of a collection of things that we see rise to the top of the list in a lot of communities. Number one is sort of basic repairs to your facilities, roofs, plumbing, heating, ventilation, electrical where needed. Number two is STEM-related facility improvements. And number three is career tech. And then number four, because in the Napa SFID, you have some older schools that were built at a time when you had asbestos and lead pipes in the construction process. Removing those was also a top 4 project. Next slide, please. So same exercise, only here we're talking to the American Canyon respondents. And what's interesting is that although the rank ordering and the numbers are a little different, at the end of the day, if you look at the top 3, what you tend to see is the same things in the top 3 as in Napa. It's STEM related improvements, it's basic repairs to your facilities, roofs, plumbing, electrical, etc. And it's career tech. Okay, next slide, please. So, if the board chooses to place a bond or two on the November 2022 ballot, there is going to be an election cycle. And during that election cycle, you're going to have a lot of discussion and debate in the community about these proposals. You're going to have some folks who will step up and advocate on behalf of these proposals, talk to their neighbors and friends and explain why this is needed and why they should vote yes. You might also have some opponents who step up and say, this is a bad idea, we shouldn't be doing this, and here's why. For this to be a reliable gauge of the feasibility of these measures, we need to know not only where your voters are today, which was that initial ballot test, but what happens to their levels of support once they're exposed to the types of arguments that they're likely to encounter during that election cycle. And so we do that by testing both positive and negative arguments in the space of the survey. Shown here are the positive arguments, and the nature of the question is supporters of the measure say blank, you insert a positive argument, and do you think this is a very convincing, somewhat convincing, or not at all convincing reason to support the measure? And you can see here that we have a number of positive arguments that get some traction. At the top of the list, though, is really a type of equity argument, which is Napa students deserve to have the same educational opportunities as others in the region, including high quality instruction in science, technology, and math. This bond will help improve the quality of education in our local schools. So that was the ranking of the positive arguments in the Napa SFID. If you go to the next slide, please. Same analysis for American Canyon. And interestingly enough, the number one argument in American Canyon is the same as it was in Napa, only applied to American Canyon. So it would be American Canyon students deserve to have the same educational opportunities as others in the region, et cetera, et cetera. So now at this point in the poll, voters have heard a lot more about this proposal than they did originally. In that initial 75 words, we had that initial ballot test. After that, we had a chance to talk about the tax rates. That tends to be a bit of a wet blanket on support for a proposal. But then we had a chance to describe in more detail all the types of projects that would be funded by the bond. We have a chance to convey positive arguments. And so we circle back with what we call our interim ballot test to figure out where are they now. And so on the next slide, you will see the interim ballot test result for the Napa SFID. So support ticks up slightly. We're sitting at 55%. By slightly, I mean there's actually a little less than 1%, and so it rounds to 55, but we're still sitting there at 55. The next slide is the American Canyon results. Here we do see that support ticks up about 3 points. So in American Canyon, we're now sitting at 59% support for this proposal. Next slide, please. And then we get to the negatives. And the idea behind the negative arguments is I want to put on my opponent hat. I want to think about what somebody who is an opponent of this bond might say to try and dissuade voters from supporting it. And then we convey those arguments in the space of the poll. And you can see that some of the negative arguments here do get some traction. The number one being that, you know, sort of this is just not a good time to be raising taxes. Local businesses and residents have been hit hard by the pandemic and inflation. Some are struggling to stay afloat. I also have an argument that references the district's prior bond. So you can see that the negatives do get some traction with your Napa SFID voters. And on the next slide, this is American Canyon. Same ranking of the negatives in American Canyon as well. We do see that they get some traction. The real question is what happens afterwards, and that's on the next pair of slides. So in Napa, those negative arguments cool us down about 5 points. And so at that final ballot test, we're sitting at 50% for the bond as we tested it in this poll. Next slide. In American Canyon, even after the negatives, we land at 56%. So we're a little above that 55% threshold, even after exposing folks to the negative arguments. And next slide, please. So I know I ran through all this pretty quickly, but I want to sum up here at the end and talk a little bit about what I think it means. I'm going to circle back first to that question of feasibility that I mentioned at the outset as one of the main motivators for doing this work. If you as a board were to choose to place these measures on a ballot, do they have a reasonable chance of success? The answer to that question is yes, but it's a qualified yes. And what I mean by that is it's going to require some careful planning and execution to be successful. Well, first, let me explain why I come to the yes decision. When we do this type of work, there's a number of things that we want to see in place in a poll to come away with the conclusion that this measure is feasible. It has a reasonable chance of success. And a lot of those things that we want to see were in place here. So we saw that voters ranked improving the quality of education in local schools as the most important issue facing the community, right? And there was a pretty decent gap between the importance they assigned to that and the importance they assigned to preventing local tax increases. That natural sentiment created sufficient support at that initial ballot test. We had 55% in the Napa SFID. We had 56% in the American Canyon SFID. All of the projects that we tested were popular. The positive arguments resonated with voters. And at all of the ballot tests for the American Canyon SFID, support level was above 55%. In the Napa SFID, it stayed above 55 until we hit the opposition, right, arguments, and that's when it dipped below. And so with some adjustments that we're going to talk about on the next slide, I think you have, a good shot at being successful, provided that you do the things that you want to do to be successful and prepared for an election this November. Having said that, I want to kind of also note that it's important to keep in mind that a poll like this, it's a snapshot in time. It's not a crystal ball looking forward to election day and saying you're going to get 55% on election day, right? What happens on election day isn't what your poll says today. It's based on everything you do from this point forward. And so I say that because it's really important that we make smart decisions about how you structure this measure, so it's consistent with the type of measure your community has said they're willing to support. And it's also really important that you put the work in, right? And by that, I mean that you continue this conversation with the community, go out and make sure that voters are well informed about the decision you're asking them to make. And so with that, I have a couple recommendations. The first, in terms of the price tag, you know, it's important that you keep this in voters' comfort zone. Legally, from a Prop 39 bond, you can go all the way up to a $60 per 100,000 of assessed valuation tax rate. That would be a 6 cent per $100 AV. I don't, based on the polling results, we didn't even test up to a 60. I think we started at 35. When you look at the polling results, I think that 2 cents per $100 of assessed value, or also a $20 per 100,000 of assessed valuation tax rate, that's really the comfort zone. That's where voters are going to feel, you know, we have a good shot at hitting that 55% threshold that's needed for success. Beyond that, you start to see some tax rate sensitivity that kicks in that's going to make it more difficult. So I would recommend keeping it there. In terms of project priorities, we saw that all the projects that we tested were popular, but when you kind of look at the silos that were most attractive, it's fixing and upgrading your older, aging classrooms and facilities, STEM-related improvements, career tech, ADA where needed, and then hazardous materials that was only tested in the Napa SFID, not in the American Canyon SFID. And so, you know, in terms of next steps, if the board's inclined to move forward and take the next steps toward placing measures on the ballot, I think it's important that you just start to continue to expand this conversation with the community, start building some even greater awareness of your facility needs and consensus around a bond proposal. And obviously, that last bullet there, that isn't the district's responsibility, an independent campaign. This is really private citizens raising private funds. That group can go out and advocate on behalf of this measure during the election cycle to make sure that this measure has a voice even after the board votes to place it on the ballot. And so I know I've covered a lot of ground in a very, hopefully, a decent amount of time here. And so let me pause there, see if there's any questions from the board.
Thank you, Tim. Gracia?
Comment. I just wanted to say thank you for presenting all of this tonight. There's a lot of information there that needed to be digested, and it looks like staff has their work cut out for them in continuing to analyze this data.
Thank you.
Okay, I, of course, long of a comment, but we want our residents of Napa County to be housed in structures that are warm, safe, and dry. It is very intuitive to us that families should feel safe and comfortable where they reside. That's a priority. So to me, this discussion is no different. Our children, faculty, staff, and administration spend a majority of their day in our facilities, about 18,000 people. So sustaining a safe and functional environment for our students and employees should be just as meaningful a priority. I am encouraged by the data that shows that a majority percentage values improving the quality of education in local public schools. It's valued above all other local issues. And a bond measure supports the correlation between learning, having a physical environment that is conducive to learning, and providing the facilities maintenance and improvement that allows that to occur. Research continues to reiterate, especially in consideration of the pandemic, school facilities improve the quality of the study environment in schools, therefore improving the quality of education. I think that it supports expanding this exploratory work. There will always be discussion and sensitivity surrounding the potential issuance of a bond. Yet what this data tells us is there's support for optimizing the learning experience and an understanding that a bond measure is a potential vehicle to do so. Our community members play a critical role, as Tim said, in this thought process. If this was to be pursued, we need high-level community engagement and two-way conversations. I appreciate the delineation of arguments for and against. In the realm of school finance, bond measures are a critical piece of facilities fiscal management. And yes, we had a bond in 2016, but the need for additional funding in light of the 2016 bond is not unique. The reality is there will always be funding needs. There is no consistent funding source, no state funding, and many of our buildings are 60 years old. Warm, safe, and dry is a real criterion. The last 4 years, the district has been fiscally prudent, transparent, and high quality work is the new norm. The quality of program and services increases when we exercise financial stewardship. And from my perspective, investing in our capital assets is financial stewardship. So I am interested in exploring next steps. What is difficult to understand, especially given California's GDP ranking, is why our state funding structure does not provide stable funding streams to address K-12 facilities needs. Most state bond funding was exhausted in 2004. 4 in 10 students in California attend schools with deficient facilities, and I certainly do not want NVUSD contributing to that statistic. We are one unified school district, but I appreciate the understanding that 2 communities exist with different needs. So 2 SFID bond measure considerations allow for specificity around those needs. I support research around the potential of a bond measure and the staff recommendations that will come based on that research. Maintenance and capital improvements from bond funding move schools forward. And post-pandemic, the current economic environment notwithstanding, local school improvement makes communities better. School bond measures are a way to make an impact now and pay it forward for generations to come. So I believe the potential of a bond measure warrants thoughtful consideration. So I thank True North for their due diligence. Trustee Julie?
Yeah, I just wanted to add some comments too. I think it's important for us and for those listening to consider the context of this information. We are, it's a feasibility study, which is, determining whether we think it's reasonable to expend some resources now, some staff time and effort to decide on whether to put this on the ballot. We're not talking about approving a bond today. There's a lot of work that needs to be done between this information and that final work. What's encouraging about that is that, looking at this data and looking at the kind of potential growth of these numbers for support for a bond is, a lot of the work that will be done is detailed analysis of of potential projects that we can support, detailed information about the needs that we have. We've done a lot of that work. We've brought that to light in the last couple of years. But we actually get to put detail to the kind of hypotheticals that are underlying these poll numbers. So it's encouraging that without that detail, with just hypotheticals, we are getting numbers that are reasonably attainable, and yet we still get to put kind of meat on those bones. We still get to detail what we can do with the bond, how we can improve the educational experience of our students with the benefit of this bond. So I'm encouraged by these kind of the bones that we get to build on. To use a macabre analogy, but I think, to me, it's encouraging enough to want to invest resources to research and develop a plan that we can decide on in June. So, thank you.
I find this really interesting, particularly the 2 communities. And I do have one question. has there ever been such a bond, one that's bifurcated between two communities in the same area? I've never heard of it before.
I know that.
Go ahead, Mr. McClarney, go.
Oh, yeah, sir. So we've worked on a number of in districts where they've had SFID boundaries for different reasons. Sometimes it's due to the some areas have heavy CFDs and the other areas don't, right? And so they felt that the bond, and splitting it that way was going to be a fair way of sort of compensating for some of the fact that some of these areas are already paying a lot. I am working in a larger district in Southern California, and one of the real concerns in that area is that it's so large that there is a lot of mistrust about where that money would go. And so the idea was we need to break this very large district, which spans over 7 different cities, into smaller SFIDs so that everyone can have confidence that, if we're going to tax ourselves here, the money's going to stay local. So it's been done.
Okay. And, the other thing I want to point out, and I know Trustee Gracia gets upset when I start ranting about real estate, but it's about assessed value. Most people in Napa, their houses are worth a lot more than the assessed value.
Market value.
Their market value is more than the assessed value. I look at some of the houses in my neighborhood, and I'd say their market value is double what their assessed value is.
At least.
Yeah. So, lots of food for thought here, and no one can say we're not being transparent.
That's right. Dr. Masetti, do you have
any other board members? Or so I want to add, I appreciate, thank you to the trustees for their comments, and thanks for the charge to continue conducting the research. As a California public school superintendent, assessing feasibility of local school bonds is kind of a non-negotiable, given that the state, as was articulated by President Jennings, the state does not provide funding for massive capital improvements. Sometimes state bonds get passed, but often in order to tap into the state bond dollars, you have to have local matching dollars. And really the only way to sort of take that to scale is to have your own local bond to be able to meaningfully tap into often what are restrictive programs as well at the state bond level. So, knowing that as a TK through 12 California public school superintendent, it's important to do this research and see what the feasibility is and what we need to do if it's not feasible or attainable based on the data. What is the hard work that we need to do in order to increase that statistical likelihood that we can engage our community in considering local tax measures. As a district, I think we've been really, really transparent that we have lots of facilities needs. I want to recognize Assistant Superintendent Mike Pearson and his team. It's really the first time we did do a study session almost a couple of years ago now. I think it was one of the first, for some of the newer trustees, study sessions that we conducted with you. And we really do have accurate assessment building by building. So that's, again, part of that research, that work, that laying the foundation. If you're going to consider going for a measure, you want to demonstrate to your community that you've done your homework, that you really know what the needs are, because you're never going to be able to address them all with one bond program. So that's what really feeds into the prioritization process. Measure H, we always want to thank the voters. Measure H, thank you, voters. 6 years ago, Measure H was really successful in making good progress across many fronts. I want to remind everybody, Measure H built 4 brand new schools in the district. And new schools in a district are always a gift. And we have Napa Junction, we have Snow, we have River School, which will be Unidos next year, and we have Willow. And so we accomplished that. We've also done massive modernization renovations at some of our elementary schools here in the city of Napa as well, where the older schools are. Also at Donaldson Way, our older school in the city of American Canyon, and some improvements at ACMS, the middle school as well. Security upgrades, technology access, all across. Those were projects that touched all of our schools and were also very crucial during the pandemic. We still have very significant basic facilities needs to ensure that, like President Jankwitz said, all of our schools are warm, safe, and dry, and provide optimal learning environments for students. And again, the state of California does not solve this. And I think that's an educative thing to note for the public. And so schools that are taking care of their facilities, or districts that are taking care of their facilities, are in places where the local community recognizes that, owns that, and solves it with local measures. So currently, just to be clear, NVUSD administration, what we're doing is actively researching, planning, laying that foundation, kind of like what Trustee Dooley alluded to ensure that we are prepared in the event that we decide to put any bonds on a potential ballot. That the next potential opportunity would, of course, be November 2022. And as Mr. McClarney presented, we are considering this innovative approach. Like, after being in the district for 4 years now, I'm very clear on the differentiated needs. And when it comes to facilities, there is a need for differentiation when you compare the schools in American Canyon that are much newer versus the schools in the city of Napa. So we wanted to, again, part of that research, assess feasibility for structuring, taking this new innovative approach. And actually, to your question, Trustee Water, I will double check my facts, but I'm pretty sure this has been done in 13 counties in the state of California over the course of the last 25 years or so. So it may be innovative and new for us, but there is past practice in the state of California to, again, keep those dollars local. It builds in that kind of inherent accountability when there's districts that stretch across different municipalities and or areas. And so we wanted to conduct that research, knowing that there are very different needs in American Canyon and Napa, still remaining a unified one, district community. So we will continue our research. We are engaging with stakeholders around this concept. Mr. Pearson, Assistant Superintendent Pearson, and I are dedicating a lot of time between now and June, and we will come forth with a potential final recommendation to the school board in June, if indeed we consider these two separate SFID, which would be two separate tax measures potentially. So stay tuned. We'll come back with more information in June.
Thank you, Dr. Masetti, and thank you, Mr. McCarney. We appreciate your time.
President
Mr.
Jankowicz.
Michaels, do we have, I'm sorry. Do you have, yeah, I'm going. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment on this item?
Yes, we do. The first speaker is Mike Arch. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Mike Arch here. So what are you guys going to do when these bond propositions fail? That's my question to you, because the last one, H, just barely passed through maybe some shenanigans. And I get that, it's a new fad here. You're going to separate them out and new strategy. But the underlying thing is you didn't spend the last money how you said you were. How can you, like taxpayers, to go, oh, okay, yeah, here's some more money. Oh, yeah, sure. You can't hold our kids' education hostage and expect a bottomless check. It won't pass. What are you going to do then? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Mr. Michaels, do we have any more public speakers?
Yes, next speaker is Norma Ortiz. Go ahead, please.
The needs will always be there. I am interested in the unknowns that may impact the bonds of, if passed, which were presented, which include trajectory of the pandemic, inflations, economy, voting, climate, hazardous materials, and so forth. I too am interested in the upgrade of Napa Valley Unified Schools, especially at Redwood Middle School, like several classrooms and our parking lots. Having said that, the district must continue to provide sufficient education information on this respect to make sure that Napa voters feel comfortable supporting such bond in the event passed, and transparency with addressing Measure H background, as well as targeting all the promised key points and accountability for again, if this were to be passed for the November 2022 ballot. So it would be nice to have campaigns moving forward that visualize that. So I think it's something to consider, given that, again, like I mentioned, the needs are always going to be there, and we just have to be consistent in making sure that we address these items and we get the proper funds from, in this case, from bonds. So I feel that that us as a district, we could potentially find good support. It's just a matter of how the information is presented, and again, that the key points are promised and are followed through with the Napa voters especially. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ortiz. Mr. Michaels, do we have additional speakers?
We have no further public comment.
Thank you very much. Apologize to the We now move to instructional services. And the first item is introduction of supplementary instruction material adoptions for dual immersion programs. Assistant Superintendent Andrew Jennings.
Good evening, President Jankowicz. For this first item that's up for review, there is no formal presentation. This item is up for approval to support our students who are have IEPs at our dual language schools and supports their learning of reading and learning and to improve their reading skills. So that's this first item that's up for review.
Thank you. Second item. Introduction of supplemental instructional material adoption. Oh, was there any public, pardon me, is there any public comment on this item, Mr. Michaels?
There is no public comment for this item.
Thank you very much. And now we move on to introduction of supplemental instructional material adoptions for elementary. And I'm assuming is there a presentation here?
There is a presentation because we were so excited about this. Mr. Michaels, can you please bring up the presentation for me? Thank you, Mr. Michaels. Good evening, again, President Jankowicz, Board Trustees, Student Representative Bitt, and the NVUSD community. Tonight, I'm here to present information regarding the Rainbow Kits, which are supplemental instructional materials. First, a little background on the creation of the Rainbow Kits. The Rainbow Kits were originally developed by the Rainbow Action Network, a subsidiary of First 5 Napa Network, as a resource for creating inclusive and welcoming preschool classrooms for all students and families. The Rainbow Kits are a collection of books, lessons, and materials that support teaching about gender inclusivity and family diversity. During the 2020 and 2021 school year, the First 5 Napa Network distributed early childhood education Rainbow Kits to preschool classrooms, and early childhood education staff were trained to use the Rainbow Kits in Napa County. These preschool kits provided a solid foundation upon which these elementary instructional materials were built. Next slide, please. So why should we address gender inclusivity and family diversity at the elementary level? Well, we are addressing gender inclusivity and family diversity because LGBTQ and diverse family and gender inclusive lessons align with Goal 5 in the NVUSD strategic plan, also aligns with the updated California Department of Education 2016 History Social Science Framework, and support our commitment to keep all of our students safe, healthy, and ready to learn. Diverse family inclusion is not just about LGBTQ families. It allows all children to celebrate their families however they may look and see that all families are different, but love is what makes a family. The California Healthy Kids Survey reports that LGBTQ students in Napa County are at a higher risk for being targets for violence, bullying, and report higher rates of substance use, depression, and suicidal ideation. Having accepting and affirming adults at school and an LGBTQ and gender inclusive environment can reduce these risks. Also, gender inclusion is not just about trans or non-binary or gender diverse students. Gender inclusion benefits every child. It allows all children to express who they are without fear of bullying. Next slide, please. So what's included in the Rainbow Kit? Well, the Rainbow Kits include a guide, which is attached to this agenda item. It has developmentally appropriate lessons that were created by the Rainbow Action Network for TK Kinder, which are for TK Kinder, and the Welcoming Schools program, which is 1st through 5th grade. It includes some LGBTQ and gender inclusive toys, diverse art supplies such as multicolored skin crayons for art activities, a rainbow flag and safe space posters, and tips on using inclusive language and resources for families and resources for family engagement. Next slide, please. Additionally, each Rainbow Kit contains a selection of books and lessons that support teaching students about family diversity and gender inclusion through high quality literature. The books have been carefully selected to be developmentally appropriate for each grade span. The grade spans have been broken down into TKK, first and second, and third through fifth. All of the books are accompanied by lessons developed by the Rainbow Action Network and Welcoming Schools. The books and lessons have been shared with a group of NVUSD teachers across elementary schools to review and provide feedback. The teachers provided insight into what they might need to feel successful using the materials. The teachers appreciated the lessons and guided questions that are included in each book. Next slide, please. At their core, the Rainbow Kits provide a valuable set of resources to support educating students about families, love, respect, and diversity. We want all of our families and students to feel welcome and included on our campuses. The Rainbow Kits support that goal. The Rainbow Kit materials, including books and lessons, are available for viewing in the Instructional Division Wing at the NVUSD Ed Center. The materials are being presented tonight for review and will be agendized on the May 5th board meeting for approval. Next slide, please. Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. We're going to go a little out of order here and respectfully go to public comment in person first. So I will start with Naomi Chamberlain.
She still has to turn it on. It's a little button right there.
A little higher, there it is.
Perfect.
There you go.
Okay, I didn't expect to go.
No, you're good. You're good.
Oh, it's okay. You're good.
You're good.
It's on.
Hello, hello. Okay. Woo, I really didn't expect to go first. Okay, here we go. Hello, members of the board, and thank you for your service. I live in Area 5. My name is Naomi Chamberlain, and I opened Napa Book Mine in 2013. We are an indie bookstore with a robust children's section, and I am the children's book buyer for all 3 of our locations. I am also the parent of a 5-year-old in kindergarten at Puebla Vista and a 3-year-old here in Napa. I want to advocate for how important the Rainbow Kits are to be integrated into our NVUSD curriculum. I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, and attended public school from K to 12. At that time, the 80s and 90s in a very southern city, there was no talk about being LGBTQ and no talk of being an ally. There wasn't talk about appreciating all racial backgrounds and cultural experiences. There wasn't an acknowledgement, let alone celebration of differences. It was normal to be surrounded by racial slurs that I don't think any of us would use or approve of in the year 2022. It was normal to use homophobic language as a joke. This was directly related to the discomfort that the adults had around speaking about diversity issues. There was no guidance to help young people accept and be exposed to the other's experience. There was only an indication that being straight, white, and able-bodied was the best or only option. Did this ensure that my friends and peers grew into straight, white, and able-bodied adults? Absolutely not. Ignoring differences does not make them go away. What did occur when we were in college was that one of my best friends who had struggled privately with his gay identity felt pressured to become engaged to a woman and then snuck around, contracted HIV, and used hard drugs such as crack to escape his internal struggle. This is not an exaggeration of my friend's story, and suicide rates among LGBTQ youth reflect that it is not uncommon to have this struggle when unsupported by the adults who surround them. For my many other friends who did come out as LGBTQ in adulthood, there was a journey to self-love that they still travel. There has been many mention of mental health tonight, and feeling accepted improves mental health. Reading stories, my friend is doing well now, by the way. Reading stories about different family structures how many of you in this room have divorced parents, by the way? Different family histories. How many in Napa County have immigrated from another country? A lot.
different skin colors. These topics are important to growing citizens who are informed, empathetic allies to people who are not just like them. The Rainbow Kits are developed by educators and parent advocates. They have impacted my family and will only have a positive impact on our children. Teaching acceptance and empathy should not only exist within our private schools as if held on a pedestal and as if these are inaccessible ideas for the majority of families. Thank you for being an example for other school districts by approving and promoting these Rainbow Kits to all of our families in Napa. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm Nancy Nord-Kanegi. My pronouns are she, her, and Aya. I am a retired school teacher from the Napa Valley Unified School District, NVLA kindergarten teacher, and I can say that these kits are wonderful. Kindergartners, they come in and we used to have a dress-up area and people are wearing skirts all children are wearing skirts and all children are putting on the firefighter outfit. And these books just celebrate diversity, and these kits celebrate diversity and love and families and differences and similarities and how to have a voice and stand up for what you believe in. And so thank you so much. And I appreciate the board and Dr. Masetti, and it's past my bedtime. And so I'm so thankful for all of you for being here and the hard work that you do. Thank you.
Next speaker, Allison Watson.
Before I start, I have a question about the board's policy on foul language because I want to know whether or not I should quote my classmates directly.
You know, we might have children that are listening, so if you wouldn't mind not using expletives, because we might have children that are listening via Zoom, if you could just, and children, we have a student board member, so if you could tone it down a little, we would appreciate it.
Okay, I will try to do that. I had not considered that there would be children listening when I prepared this, but I'll try my best. Oh, fair enough. Hello, my name is Allison Watson. I'm a senior at New Technology High School. I was directly involved with a lot of the assembly of the Rainbow Kits, as well as some of the training and behind the scenes stuff that went into their development. I've reviewed everything in them as part of preparing reports on them during an internship I was doing with the school district. I personally very strongly believe that they'll be good for all of the students here in NVUSD, not just the people whose representation it will increase. I believe diversity helps everyone. And I've been the target of some rather blatantly homophobic and transphobic comments by my classmates. And my teachers have been woefully underprepared for how to deal with that, even at the high school level. And I believe other people in the future will be spared the same sort of stuff I've had to encounter in some of my classes, if we are able to encourage a broader understanding and acceptance and tolerance of diversity from a younger age in NVUSD. I believe that's an important, good thing that we need to be doing to protect people. And I believe it really is, it's not just a matter of acceptance and kindness for children. I believe it's a matter of safety for the community as they grow up and become better able to understand the needs of the people around them. Thanks.
I am short. Good evening. My name is Catherine Fleming, and I'm a parent of 2 children at Pueblo Vista Elementary School. My eldest child will be attending Unidos in the fall. I'm also a local Girl Scout leader and a member of the Napa Rainbow Action families. I'm coming before you tonight to express my support for the Rainbow Kits to be distributed to the NVUSD elementary schools. I believe that it is very important for children to realize the amazing diversity we have in the world around us. to see themselves in that world and be able to find their place in it. All children will benefit from diverse family and gender inclusive classrooms, and we all benefit from children learning to have an open mind. Children need to see families like theirs in their curriculum. They need to see other children and grownups that look like them in their books. And children need to see a wide variety of children and grownups reflecting the world around them. I want my children and their friends to be able to bring their whole authentic selves to school and not feel like they may need to hide who they are, where they are from, or who their families are. I applaud NVUSD's work on developing a DEI plan as part of their strategic plan. I am excited to see these rainbow kits and the reflected training in my children's classrooms to inspire these discussions, build knowledge, encourage acceptance, and create a sense of belonging for all children in our schools. Thank you.
Hello and good evening. My name is Kyrie Fleming and I am in 5th grade at Pueblo Vista Elementary School. I'm here today to show my support for the rainbow kits to be distributed to NVUSD elementary schools. As part of the LGBTQ community, I'm disappointed to see that kids in my class often use the word gay or other words that refer to the LGBTQ community as an insult. And my hope is that these rainbow kits will help gain understanding and limit discrimination against the LGBTQ community. Nobody, especially kids, should feel discriminated against because of who they love or their gender. In addition, representation of the LGBTQ community will help students feel more safe at school, knowing that there are other people like them and that they are not alone, and that they are not being represented. I also believe that teachers would benefit from these rainbow kits. For example, 2 of my friends at school have become gender fluid this year. Because of this, they have changed their names and their pronouns. Some teachers don't quite understand that and keep calling them by their old names and old pronouns. So I think that with these rainbow kits, teachers could be educated as well and help students feel more safe and comfortable at school. In conclusion, rainbow kits should be distributed to all NVUSD elementary schools to educate students, teachers, and to let kids know that they are safe at school. We need to stop fearing and start educating, for we are the future, and I want to have an open-minded, aware, and proud future. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for listening to me tonight. My wife and I felt like it was important to come and at least one of us talk about our support for the rainbow kits. We have 2 sons. One is a 5-year-old at Willow in kindergarten, and one's a 3-year-old. And one thing we felt was very important for both of our sons to realize is that they should be proud and feel special that they have 2 moms, because there's lots of people in the society that will tell them that that's wrong and that's gross and that they be discriminated against. And the last thing I need is for my own children to feel that, because I already have had to experience that in my own life. And so that was always a big fear of mine. And so we really did start at a young age reading books like Heather Has 2 Mommies. And my oldest still wants to meet Heather because he just identified with her and the fact that she had 2 mommies and he doesn't understand why he can't meet her. And when I think about these rainbow kits, I just want him to recognize that he can see himself in the classroom and be proud of that as well. And he is so proud, and he will tell anybody he sees that he has 2 mommies. And so it was almost like it hurt a little bit when he came home to school one day and said that a girl had hit him because he had 2 mommies. And of course, we went right to the teacher because we wanted this to address. And I have to say the teacher responded appropriately, investigated, figured out what happened. And it wasn't a worst case scenario where the student was hitting him because he had 2 mommies. She hit him because she didn't understand how he could possibly have 2 mommies, because everybody has a mom and a dad. And so she thought he was lying. And as a kindergartner, she got frustrated because he kept going back and saying, no, I have 2 mommies. I have 2 mommies. And she finally got so frustrated, she hit him.
And so I just kind of think if she got to have these stories the way we read these stories from our sons and saw that there are different types of families out there, when she has a classmate that says he has 2 mommies, she could just be like, oh, okay, I have a mom and a dad. And that would be the end of it. So my hope is that you have the rainbow kits at all classrooms at the elementary school level at NVUSD. I think they're really important. I've read all of the stories in the kits. There's nothing offensive in them. It's important, and I hope that you approve it. And at the very least, I really just would like my son not to get hit again because he has 2 moms. Thank you.
Mr. Michaels, do we have any virtual public comment?
Yes, we do. First speaker is Kara. Go ahead, please.
Hello, am I off mute?
You are, we can hear you.
Wonderful, thank you. Hello, my name is Kara Harrington. My pronouns are she and her. First of all, thank you all for your support of rainbow kits for our schools. I'm a parent of a 3rd grader at Vichy. I'm also the elected parent representative president for the Vichy Site Council. I'm a member of the First 5 Napa Network, and I'm also the instigator and director of the Napa Rail Arts District Rod Wall mural. You might see on Lincoln, where we work with teens of all wonderful kinds and colors, including many who are gender fluid. I thought tonight I would talk with you about the Site Council safety and SIPSA goals at Vichy, but you're probably already aware of them, and that the student social and emotional development is one of the core goals there. But not as this warm and fuzzy, but as actually as a foundation for student learning and the learning environment, and as a school safety goal. As a parent, I care so deeply about the mental health and social development, interpersonal development of not just my daughter, but all the children in our community. And I just so strongly support promoting diversity and just actively creating that community of inclusion for all students. These skills for talking about diversity and LGBTQ inclusion, they're actually like, I know some parents can maybe feel some fear where their mind goes, but this inclusion, these conversations are actually so natural, and they're about fairness and love and just celebrating each of us just as we are. I've really had the pleasure to work with some of the related rainbow family materials for parents. And they're just so professionally developed. I've done this with my daughter and a cohort of parents, and I just found them so just excellent and approachable and thoughtful. And they were fun and they were joyful. And these conversations are really, they're not scary. They're just, there can be fear around it, but they're actually quite natural and joyful. And so I know this journey starts so early for kids. And I see the teachers really working hard this year, especially to help build and support the mental health of our kids. And I'm just so thankful that these rainbow kits exist and that they're so professionally designed and just can help support teachers and the adults in our lives to have these conversations. I just think these kids are so valuable and engaging and age appropriate. And just to help with this important work in these open discussions. So I just have strong support for these rainbow kits for every classroom, at Vichy at our school, and I hope it translates to the entire school district. Thank you so much again for your support for our schools.
Thank you very much. Mr. Michaels, do we have any additional public speakers?
Yes, next speaker is Michelle Dixon. Go ahead, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Hi, good evening, board. Good evening, Superintendent Masetti. Thank you so much for taking the time this evening to be here, even late into the evening. I wanted to speak out as a parent in the district. I have a 6th grader at River Middle School. I also have a almost 5-year-old who will be starting kindergarten in the fall. They last year changed their name and their pronouns as they experienced this overwhelming feeling that they were in fact a girl. Over that time, we have been involved with the Rainbow Action Network, attending play dates, hosting one of the Rainbow Little Libraries in front of our home, which contains a lot of the same books that are in these Rainbow kits. In addition, our daughter has been really lucky to attend one of the preschools in Napa that received the training and the Rainbow kits from the Rainbow Action Network. I think there's a lot, as you know, previous speakers have said, there's a lot of fear on the behalf of parents, but there's also this misunderstanding that all of this is new, or that this is only happening in teens, when in fact, you know, these conversations can happen so much younger than any parent can even expect. And they can happen younger than any educator can expect. And starting this education early, having these discussions early and often is really going to make the difference to all of these children, not only children that are like my daughter, but children from other families that come from varied backgrounds. Having this accessibility in a classroom to actually be able to ask each other, to talk to each other, to share with each other how we are all so very different, and fostering that sense of acceptance, it means so much more than I can say. Having teachers and classmates and friends and family that have been so supportive of our daughter. And I can just only say that I really hope that this gets approved, because knowing that other teachers and kids will be able to have these discussions together means that hopefully we are heading towards a much better place in our society, and ensuring that children everywhere are able to love, care for, and accept each other as we are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Michaels?
Yes, next speaker is Keisha Lind. Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Kesha Lind. I live here in Napa with my family. I work at the Napa District Attorney's Office, and currently I'm prosecuting all cases that involve any sort of child abuse. I also am a commissioner on the First Five network as well. My husband and I live here in Napa. We have two young boys. Our older one is a second grader at Puebla Vista that has had a lot of representation here tonight. So go Puebla Vista. And our youngest is a 4-year-old who will be starting there in the fall. When I was getting prepared to speak here today, I happened to see a presentation given by a Michigan State Senator named Mallory McMorrow. And she happens to live in a district where there's some legislation kind of in the opposite spirit of what we're discussing here tonight. And one of the things that she said, she gave a very impassioned speech on her Senate floor. And one of the things that she said that really struck with me is she said, you know, it's time for all of us to stand up, push back against hate, so teachers can get back to creating welcoming, inspiring space for kids to learn and grow instead of having to constantly defend against attempts to marginalize any kids who are different. And I think that these Rainbow Kits really are an opportunity for Napa to be a leader in this effort of inclusivity. The Rainbow Kits are great tools that teachers can use to not only create a safe space for children that may be seen as different, but just as importantly, if not more importantly, they can teach all children to be allies and teach kids to be kind and supportive of their friends, kids who they may have just pushed aside and excluded because they didn't look or act the same way that they did. In a world right now that can feel very divisive, I think that this is an amazing opportunity for our schools to be leaders, to raise leaders who will help each other and support each other and celebrate each other's differences without judgment. That's the Napa that I hope to raise my two sons in, and I strongly encourage the board to vote to approve the use of Rainbow Kits in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Michaels?
Yes, next speaker is Frank Silva. Go ahead.
Yes, hi, my name is Frank Silva.
and I'm a principal in Napa, and we have these kits at our school. I am very proud to have these at school. Hang on a minute, I'm sorry. And I was able to read one of these books today, Be Who You Are, and the kids were inspired by it. There's a lot of research that shows, and it's been explained tonight, about the impact of teasing and bullying on the LGBTQ plus community. And so I won't go into that. But what I want to talk about is this is good for all kids. This is going to give our students, all of our students, these skills: respect, equity, care, cooperation, celebration, acceptance, appreciation of differences, and openness, empathy, and self-confidence. These are the skills that our students need, the skills and traits our students need to be successful in the workplace and happy and productive citizens in the 21st century. So I encourage the board to approve these, the kits. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Principal Silva. Mr. Michael?
Yes, next speaker is Christina Lawrence. Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Christina Lawrence. I have 3 school-age children, and I taught kindergarten at Browns Valley for 9 years. I'm passionate about social emotional learning and creating a safe and inclusive community in my classroom for all of my students. Through extensive research and reading in the areas of positive discipline and classroom management, I have found that when students feel loved, welcomed, and connected to their school community, they are more motivated and able to learn and access higher order thinking. Rainbow kits are a fabulous and exciting addition to our NVUSD curriculum, and they will help meet these goals. I have been trained in BEST, PBIS, restorative practices, circles, most recently Toolbox, all programs that encourage children to make good choices and solve problems. I have been anxiously awaiting Rainbow kits as another tool in my teaching toolbox that will help all of my students feel connected and welcome at school. My son is a current kindergartner, and the books in this kit will help him appreciate and understand the diversity in his classroom and world. I'm so proud of our district for doing what is best for our students and creating communities of inclusion. I'm honored to work here and send my children to school in a district that prioritizes the mental health of our students by ensuring that they feel safe, respected, and represented at school. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Michaels.
Yes, next speaker is Hannah Henry. Go ahead, please.
Hi, I knew as soon as I had a bite of ice cream, I was going to get called up. Thank you so much to the board and to all the participants. The comments tonight have been frankly moving beyond any school board comments I've heard before. I just want to reiterate a couple of points. I mean, I don't want to reiterate too many points because I want to make a couple of different ones. A lot of ground has already been covered. I just want to say that what the Rainbow Kits can offer is it's not a solution to a problem. It's one step in a direction that we are already headed, and we need to stay on a positive path. My kids, I am a parent of 4 children. 2 have graduated from the district, and I have a senior at Valley Oak, and I have a 4th grader at Shearer Elementary. They already have the language, and they have this ability to talk about diversity and gender fluidity in a way that adults just don't. We're not comfortable with it yet. We're new at it. We need help. We need tools. Teachers are exhausted. These last 2 years have been overwhelming. They're doing their absolute best, and they need help and support navigating this new landscape. And if we don't provide extra help like the Rainbow Kits, which is just one tool in a toolkit that needs to be ever expanding, then we're leaving kids behind and we're leaving our teachers behind. So I strongly encourage you to approve the distribution of these kits and understand that it's part of an evolving it's part of an evolving process. Like we've got to add to our understanding of humanity. We have come so far. I have an uncle who took his own life because he could never come out as a gay man in his community. That was, 40 years ago. We have come so far. Now we can actually have conversations about it. My fourth grader came home from a play date asking what gender fluidity meant and said, oh yeah, so my friend says that he's gender fluid. Like, that's vocabulary that I just learned myself. So we need to catch up to our kids and help them become their truest selves. And thank you so much for considering this. And absolutely, Napa needs to be a leader in this effort. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much. Mr. Michaels, do we have additional speakers?
We do. Next speaker is Kate Graham. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. My name is Kate Graham. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a Napa County resident and parent of 2 children, ages 5 and 3. I also serve on the Napa County Library Commission. My husband, Hardy Wallace, is here with me on Zoom to share a comment. So I'm hoping that you can reset the clock for him when I'm finished. I want to thank you for supporting Rainbow Toolkits containing LGBTQ and gender inclusive materials to make Napa elementary schools and classrooms LGBTQ and gender inclusive. Napa Unified School District and First 5 Napa have already dedicated incredible time and resources to this program, and our family is grateful for the partnership and the effort put forth to ensure that all children and families are made visible. We're also grateful to know that Napa is already leading through its strategic plan. The district is committed to promoting equity by increasing institutional access to historically underserved groups, to supporting diversity and actively creating a community of inclusion for all students, families, and staff, and to creating systems across all departments and schools, which intentionally ensures that everyone is respected and feels that they are part of an inclusive organization. This is really hard work and important work, and it should be recognized and applauded. So again, I sincerely thank you for prioritizing and fostering safe and inclusive environments where students are free to identify and express themselves in ways that feel authentic and comfortable to them. I'd like to share for a minute about the Rainbow Kits, as our children have had the opportunity to directly engage with and benefit from them. As you have already seen in the PowerPoint and heard from so many tonight, the activities in the toolkits are key in really teaching what it is to be human in existence and alongside other humans that share similarities and differences. The Family Book by Todd Parr is a wonderful example of a book utilized in the toolkit. You may be familiar with Parr as a 3-time New York Times bestselling author and illustrator of more than 50 books for children. They include powerful messages for children such as be kind, love yourself, and be who you are. The Family Book specifically includes facts like some families have 1 parent instead of 2. Some families live in a house by themselves. Some families share a house with other families, and all families can help each other be strong. When I asked our 5-year-old what she learned most from the activities in the kit, she responded without hesitation, "I've learned the most about kindness." She was super sad that she had to go to bed this evening and couldn't comment and share with you all, as it is baffling to her that anyone wouldn't want these kits shared. We can't fly the rainbow flag and choose not to engage our children in lessons and conversations related to the vast and beautiful spectrum for which it stands. We have a responsibility to teach messages of inclusion to all our children in Napa County, and I thank the board in advance for being bold leaders and making sure this program moves forward.
And if I may speak, my name is Hardy Wallace. I am Kate Graham's husband. My pronouns are he and him. I'm also the father of a 3- and 5-year-old here in Napa. And both kids have been involved with Rainbow Action Playdates, have gone through many of the books in the kits. And as a father, to be able to watch kids so young at 3 and 5 learn basic skills such as kindness, intolerance, acceptance, things that when I was younger were things that were denied and things that were ignored. And when we ignore, deny, and fail to acknowledge those things, It's not just the communities that the LGBTQ community that actually is harmed by that. It's really the community as a whole, and it's our kids. And because when we deny something, we then give it a taboo. We want to pretend that it doesn't exist or that it's wrong, same way we deal with other problems in this country. And so to see our kids grow and to learn kindness and acceptance at such a small and young age, it makes me incredibly proud as a father, as a husband, to watch these kids and see their hearts grow. So I hope that everything continues to move forward with these kids. And thank you for giving us the time.
Thank you very much for your comment. Mr. Michaels?
Yes, next speaker is Christine Dreher. Go ahead, please.
Christy, are you with us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I want to thank the board and the speakers who came before me and just let you know how grateful I am to be a recipient of one of the rainbow kits and the training here at my preschool Giggles here in Napa, where I serve 20 families in our community. I also teach in the Child and Family Studies Department at Napa Valley College, where everything that the previous speakers have mentioned is so important in what we believe is so important in early childhood, and getting our next generation of teachers ready to work with these amazing littles. So in doing that, I was looking at the National Association for the Education of Young Children's goals, right? What are our key goals for anti-bias education? And I feel that in using the Rainbow Kit daily, it's a natural, organic part of our day here at my preschool. I believe I can say with confidence that our kiddos do demonstrate self-awareness, confidence, family pride, positive social identities. They're all able to express comfort and joy with diversity. And again, like some of the previous speakers said, that littles are even able to understand and explain what diversity means is so huge. And we should be so proud as a community that this is this important to us. They're using accurate language for human differences and just cultivating a deep, caring sense for human connections. I think one of the biggest aha moments I've had using the kit is how the kids have learned to recognize and speak up for unfairness. And you know, when I listened to Allison speak at the beginning of this part of the meeting, my goal, my hope would be that all kiddos be able to feel comfortable using being not just recognizing unfairness, but having the language to describe it and to understand that it hurts so that more children aren't hurt as they grow up. I just, in the last goal, goal number 4 in this, that demonstrates empowerment and the skills to act with others or alone against prejudice and discriminatory actions. And this kit is so beautifully put together to make this possible. And I hope that it's in every school, in every environment where young children, spend time, because it's going to make all of us better. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Mr. Michaels, do we have additional speakers?
We do have We have no further public comment.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's going to be hard to compete with what just happened. So, but would anybody like to make a comment?
I'll make a really short.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh. Yes, that's right. We Trustee Water, did we receive public comment via email prior to the meeting?
We did 5 comments. Do I give their names? Yes. Okay, Sarah Southam, Sarah Knutson, Erica Lubinsky, Megan Gardner, and Britannia Anoe Gonzalez.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Sure.
All right, Trustee Chu.
So I think as a school district, we want to make sure our students are prepared for the future. And a lot of that actually has to do with cultural responsiveness and how we educate our children, because that's the world they're going to have to go into. And cultural responsiveness is not only about, me being Asian or, somebody else being Latinx. It's really about everyone, LGBT community included. And we need to give our teachers the tools to do this. And I think we've heard that from a lot of our speakers. And if we don't give that tools to our teachers, who our students are learning from, how do we expect to prepare them well for the future and the future world that they're going to go into when they're adults? And so I really, appreciate the fact that we are doing this, because I think, in the United States, we are a melting pot of a lot of different cultures, not only, from different countries, but also gender fluidity, trans, and it's very important because it does affect your mental health. My husband is a endocrinologist, and he's actually one of the only doctors in his practice that takes care of patients who are thinking of transitioning. And it's really amazing that the biggest challenge is the mental health piece. It isn't the medical piece. They have medicines, but it really is the mental health piece. Are his patients ready for that transition? Are they comfortable in whatever comes? And, I would love it if the society is not part of what's contributing to their difficulty in making that decision. And I feel that as an education system, we have that responsibility to teach our kids to be culturally responsive themselves. And to do that, it's to give the tools to our teachers.
Thank you, Trustee Chu. Trustee Dooley?
Yes. I really appreciate all of the work that went into putting these kits together. One thought that came up when listening to all of the very moving comments tonight is the idea of progress. We all recognize how generations kind of change in their understanding about many of these things. But it's not just a function of time. It's not a matter of years passing that we learn this. It's actually a matter of action that's taken at meetings like this. It's a matter of stances taken by people at meetings like this, and comments by people in audiences like this that makes progress. We can't just wait and see what happens, because there are people who are taking actions that are adverse to that progress. And what we've heard a lot of reasons why we need progress and why we need more progress from where we've been in the last generation. Some of it is, it struck me that, I remember growing up in school, we always heard about that diversity is a good thing. And there wasn't a lot of discussion about why it's a good thing. But there have been a lot of studies, hundreds of studies about why diversity is good in school settings. It increases empathy among all students. It increases openness towards newcomers, towards differences, towards people that you may not encounter otherwise. It increases kindness. We heard that from speakers as well. It also is directly correlated with higher student achievement. It improves creativity, higher problem-solving skills. These are things that we, as a school board, are very interested in improving, and diversity is directly related to that. But I think, and one of the hardest things that we've heard tonight is the struggles that people who have been marginalized for so many generations are continuing to experience. And diversity and actions like this increase support, they increase the feelings of validation, and they increase feelings of self-worth. This is a very simple action for us to take. I mean, a lot of work went into it, a lot of, it's not simple in its concept, or in its execution, but it's simple in its concept. And we can take that step today and support all of those benefits that we can see from diversity as a benefit in our system. So I'm very supportive of this.
Well said. Trustee Reiser?
Yeah, thank you. I will be brief. First, I just want to thank everybody who came in person to address us on this issue, and everybody who phoned in. I'm not going to lie, I had some anxiety about this agenda item because I feared that our community would show up in a different way. And I am incredibly grateful that the meeting unfolded in this particular way. I want to thank everybody who shared their personal stories as parents and individuals. To me, this is a no-brainer. And I'll build on what Trustee Dooley said and just comment that I can remember standing in a bookstore in San Carlos when I was a teacher. It was 1999, because that was the only year I taught at that school. And I had some funds from the school to buy books for my classroom, my second, third grade classroom library. And I stood there with Heather Has Two Mommies, which was back then like the book. There was, there was one with two dads, I think. But I stood there and thought, I want this book for my classroom. This belongs in my classroom. But then I struggled with it. And then I remember I bought it, and then there was a parent of a student in my class who was on the equivalence of the board of trustees of that charter school. And I pulled him aside and I was like, I just have a question. And before I could get the title, Heather Has Two Mommies, out of my mouth, he was like, oh, absolutely, But that was a deal, and that was in 1999. And so I am also incredibly grateful that in 2022, we are, as the Board of Trustees, considering a very thoughtful, professionally curated kit of supplies that are going to go into every single classroom pending our vote, which is not, for anyone listening, I think this is not an action item tonight. Is that right? So we aren't actually going to have the satisfying closure of voting tonight about this. But I'm just incredibly grateful for that progress. And the last thing I'll say is just to reiterate that this is about families and love and respect. For those who are marginalized, this could very well be a life-saving intervention that we're doing to have this content integrated and available for all students. And for those other students and others that would encounter these kits, that idea that one of our commenters brought up, that this promotes allyship. This will be teaching other children who to be allies and to be allies for each other. So, to represent all of our students and to keep them all emotionally safe in our schools is our job, and I'm proud of us for doing this. And thank you for everyone for your hard work. Trustee, what are we?
Microphone on, right. Yeah, I'm very glad about the people who showed up tonight. And I was just thinking, I taught 22 years ago, I started working at the school next door. And schools can be very homophobic environments. And all schools, private schools too. You know, they're not, believe me, they're not at all immune. And I did notice a change next door. I noticed that my students, including some very surprising ones, were displaying, you know, remarkable sensitivity and tolerance and enjoyment. I mean, it's not just putting up with someone who's different from you, it's actually getting a kick out of them, you know, having fun with them, enjoying students who are different from them. And I was thinking, you know, because I think young people are not naturally pathological. I think children have a natural sense of fair play. And when it's, that's probably why I hate Lord of the Flies so much, because I think children have a natural sense of fair play. And when they behave in other ways, in negative ways, it's because they've been warped in some way. It's maybe, as Naomi said, maybe when they were sitting around the table, you know, they heard adults talking in a certain way and they got bent. But here's what I know. When children experience exclusion, abuse, cruelty, you know, rejection because of who they are, what they are, it's a violation of their human rights. And it's utterly unacceptable. And I think we need to start from the bottom up and make sure people feel safe. People who do not feel safe, who feel sad, who feel depressed, who feel closed out, there have been some tragedies connected with that. You know, some very sad stories. And I think we just can't have that. We can't have that anymore. And Jason's right, and so are you. The world is changing, and I think it is. It's I mean, it's changing. It's moving forward. It's moving forward, and I think that's why some people you know, react out of fear. But it's moving forward, and we need to encourage our children to be kind to each other and to have fun with each other.
Thank you, Trustee Water.
I think I'm just sitting here and with a very strong word that is spread among the LGBT community is pride. Not only have we raised our rainbow flag and an inclusive flag that celebrates our transgender community as well, and celebrates the diversity that exists and the intersectionality that exists with humans, people of color as well. And today I get to wear my NVUSD Pride shirt, and but more so because one of the most important roles that we have as trustees is the governance piece of it. How we created a foundation for the work to not only be represented by a flag that goes up during a Pride Month, but for the long term. And that creates life-changing moments for our kiddos and our staff and our community. And we started that with our strategic plan, and we started that with our DEI policy and investment and work. We continue that now with our rainbow kits. it's been a journey, but it's been a journey for many of us longer than that. And so it's about time. It's about time to celebrate the uniqueness that we all bring in the classroom and our everyday lives. I love the fact that the Rainbow Kid, as is explained in the slides and as many of the stories shared today, is about love and caring for those around you, caring about yourself. It's about our families and being there for each other. It's a lot about our individual selves coming out, but it's also about the community coming out. And so, but there's a lot of history and anxiety that comes around that. Coming out, when you come out, it's like there's an anxiety around that. And so, and it feels like every time you have to come out, it brings back all of that. And this is part of that foundational work, so that when our kiddos and our community, you don't have to, you just are who you are. You don't have to experience the really harshness that our community can have, right? It takes a village to raise one, but it also takes a village to take one down. And we have a responsibility, a governing one here. And I'm just very proud, because I knew deep down that that our community was going to show up today, and from all backgrounds here, from allies to our LGBTQ, from our teachers to principals to our parents and our students. That's exactly what this is growing. This is exactly the types of seeds that are being planted with this work. It's just watching that grow in its organic way, which as human beings, we are that. It's just really beautiful to see that. And there is no stopping that. And it's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to branch out. And it's going to continue to make our community stronger. And I'm just really appreciative of the space that that we are creating in our district, which is not an easy feat to do, because we know what's happening nationally in other states, and this can quickly go the other way. But by creating these types of seeds, I think what it does, it creates a nurturing environment, in a space for everybody to feel safe, so they can be who the best of who they're going to be. I got all those layers of marginalized in my history, right? You're Latina, Latine, Mexicana, you're Chicana, Chicane, I'm queer. And it's just, it's exhausting that your mind has to occupy so much time in all of these areas where you just want to be who you want to be, and just, that's it. But it's a reality. It occupies that mind, and it's filled with anger. It's filled with frustration. And I'm an adult, quote unquote, right? Still growing up, but our kiddos, right? We're here for them, and we are responsible to create that safe space for our kiddos and equip ourselves with that too. And so feeling very proud, and I look forward to the ongoing work that's going to keep going, that those seeds are being planted, and let's keep on going. So
Thank you very much. I don't think I can add anything.
Emily.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Emily, my dear, please.
I don't know if I can add anything of substance after all of this, but I think that growing up for a lot of students, topics surrounding the LGBT community, it could feel taboo, especially growing up. There wasn't a lot of representation in the media, and so you don't see it around you. So oftentimes some students will think like, oh, it doesn't exist, or I can never be this, I can never feel this way. And so personally for me, I never grew up in a household where I was told what to be, but you go to school and you have your peers telling you, this is what my parents tell me, this is what I've seen. And so I think that starting young and having these rainbow kits, I think this is such an amazing thing. I'm a student. I've never seen other school districts, but I've never really seen something like this before. And I think it's such an amazing opportunity to allow students to explore themselves and their identity in a safe environment. They go to school, they don't feel pressured to be somebody else. They don't feel pressured to fit a certain stereotype, or like they don't feel like they're enclosed in this box. And I think that what I've heard from a lot of my peers who are part of the LGBTQ plus community is that they weren't able to truly find themselves, or maybe they haven't even found themselves yet, but they weren't able to explore their identity or their sexuality or their gender until they were in high school, and they felt like they were old enough and they were far enough away from like their parents, or I don't know, they just didn't feel safe enough when they were younger to really explore themselves. And I think this is such an important thing to be bringing into the classroom. And I think that NVUSD is such an amazing district and such a special place. And I don't know, I just feel really proud, and connecting with my former peer and seeing her present and seeing that other students have had a hand in creating these kits, and their stories are obviously within these kits too. I think it's a really special thing. So yeah, I'm really happy about this.
Thank you very much. I do want to thank everybody that shared their story, that shared their beliefs, that made themselves vulnerable. Diverse family inclusion in the classroom and school settings allow all children to celebrate their families. However they're structured, it gives all children an opportunity to learn that all families have similarities and all families have differences. And what Pat Andrew Jennings said, that all children can learn that love does make a family. And the premise of that statement correlates to how our children will view themselves, others, and be accepting and supporting of the world around them. And this type of work molds the values of generations to come. And I am all for it. So that being said, I think we have concluded our comments. Thank you to you two. I mean, truly, thank you very much. It's 10:30, so well done. You may leave.
This is early. This is early.
We have a ways to go. We do. So no, thank you.
And just as a matter of procedure for everyone that's on the call, it's just typical. It's not that we don't want to vote tonight. It's just typical that we introduce our protocol around instructional materials and curriculum, is that we introduce it at a first meeting as a presentation discussion item, and then it gets voted on as an action item at the subsequent meeting. So it's just a matter that is our protocol. So
thank you for the clarification. Okay.
Madam President.
Yes.
I need to make a motion to extend the meeting. I would like to move to extend it to midnight.
Second.
First by, thank you, accept the motion, and first by Trustee Dooley, second by Trustee Gracia. All in mild favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Grudging favor.
Yes, okay. Motion passes. School planning and construction. This is a public hearing on developer fee levels. So public hearing is now open, and Assistant Superintendent Pearson.
Yes, President Jankowicz, we have a very short presentation given by Rob Murray with King and Associates on our developer fee level 1. So Mr. Murray, I think you're on panelists. There you are. And if you'll take it away.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Pearson and Superintendent Masetti, Board President, members of the board. As indicated, I think the order of the day is that we do want to keep this one fairly quick while hitting all the key content. And so a little bit later tonight, you'll have a resolution to adopt developer fees that is in conjunction with the 2022 developer fee study. So again, I'm Rob Murray, the Director of Graphics and Planning with King Consulting, who prepared your justification study for this year. So this really goes back without going on to everything in the history, but really since 1998 with the passage of SB 50, there is a cap on the amount that can be levied in this level 1 statutory fee every other year. Those fees are increased, and really those developer fees don't actually cover the true impact of what it costs with the additional student generation and need for facilities. So it's imperative that school districts are making sure to collect that maximum developer fee. Think of it as the routine maintenance of your developer fee program, and just something that you need to make sure that you're keeping on top of every couple of years. So on to the next slide, please. Thank you. And so these fees just functionally are collected on each square foot of both residential and commercial industrial construction at different rates per the state allocation board in its February meeting of this year. Those 2022 rates were set at $4.79 per each square foot of residential development and 78 cents per square foot of commercial and industrial development. And then on to the next slide. A very important one, again, just functionally, the whole reason you have that justification study is that the use of those fees is tied by how the collection of those fees is justified in the study. And so the study lays it out, and I'm happy to answer questions if needed on that. But largely, this will allow you to use those developer fees for the new construction and modernization reconstruction projects that are needed to maintain your existing level of service for all future students. And then on to one more slide. Now, of course, your study shows that you actually are justified at rates that exceed these statutory amounts. So the recommendation is to adopt those statutory amounts of the $4.79 per square foot of residential development, 78 cents per square foot of commercial industrial development, with the exception of mini storage, just because you have a large amount of square footage with a small number of employees is justified at a rate of 13 cents per square foot for that one specific type of commercial and industrial development. And that is it for the presentation. I am happy to answer questions if there are any.
Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment?
We do not. There is no public comment.
Okay, thank you. Seeing as we have no public comment and no questions, I'm going to close the public hearing. Thank you very much, and we will move on. Moving on to action items. Discussion and approval of resolution number 2230, authorizing continued use of remote teleconferencing provisions pursuant to AB 361 in Government Code Section 54953.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by Trustee Dooley. Do we have any public comment, Mr. Michaels?
There is no public comment for this item.
May we get a roll call vote, please, Vera?
Yes. Student Board Member Bitt.
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz.
Aye.
Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
Trustee Water.
Aye.
Trustee Reiser.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Trustee Shu.
Aye.
Trustee Dooley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vera. Establishing School Facilities Improvement Districts, SFIDs, request to Napa County Board of Supervisors.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by Trustee Reiser. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment?
There is no public comment for this item.
Student Board Rep.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Resolution 2228, declaring May 9th through May 13th, 2022 Employee Appreciation Week.
Move to approve, but I'd like to make a comment before we vote.
Certainly.
Second.
First by Trustee Gracia, second by Trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment?
There is no public comment for this item.
before we vote, would you like to?
Yes. I just wanted to take this opportunity to recognize the good work done by all of our employees. It seems fitting to express our appreciation and gratitude for their hard work and dedication to educating our students. Every employee in the district contributes to the education of our students. Whether they work behind the scenes or directly in the classroom, all their work is necessary for student education. So I want to take this moment to recognize all of you and to say thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well said.
Well said. Student Board Rep?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, that's right. Sorry, it is. Do we have any, we asked for public comment. May I get a roll call vote, please, Vera?
Yes, Student Board Member Bitt,
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz,
Aye.
Trustee Gracia,
Aye.
Trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Reiser,
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares,
Aye.
Trustee Shu,
Aye.
Trustee Dooley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vera. Resolution 2233, exemption to the separation from service requirement.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by Trustee Dooley. Do we have any public comment, Mr. Michaels?
There is no public comment for this item.
Vera, it's another roll call vote, please.
Yes, Student Board Member Bitt,
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz,
Aye.
Trustee Gracia,
Aye.
Trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Reiser,
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares,
Aye.
Trustee Shu,
Aye.
Trustee Dooley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vera. University of Colorado Agreement for Student Clinical Education.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by Trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment?
There is no public comment for this item.
Student Board Rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. 2021-22 revision to salary schedules.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by Trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels?
There is no public comment for this item.
Thank you, sir. Student Board Rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Napa Valley Unified School District and California School Employees Association Longevity Stipend Updated Language.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by Trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels?
There is no public comment for this item.
Student Board Rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to instructional services. Adoption of updated, pardon me, my contacts. Board Policy 6146, high school graduation requirements.
I'll move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by Trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels?
There is no public comment for this item.
Student Board Rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Agreement between Liberated Ethnic Studies, MCC, and Napa Valley Unified School District.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by Trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels?
We do have public comment. Rosa Linda Hurtado, go ahead, please.
Good evening. As a teacher, a mother, and a proud Mexican American, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak and also talk about the importance of having an ethnic studies program at our district. I believe it's long overdue for our kiddos. I myself am a product of the Unified School District, and I know the importance of having had this type of program, these type of learning and teaching in our school, in all the schools that I went to. I also wanted to comment a couple of reasons why I believe ethnic studies is important for all our students and our community. The first one, it's studies show that it helps with our graduation rates. It gives a more supportive learning environment for the underrepresented students. And as we know, in our district, we have a large number of students that are considered minority and underrepresented. And I believe that it is important for them to be heard and feel comfortable in a class that it talks about people and events that are relevant and known to them. I also believe as a teacher that it enhances critical thinking skills because faculty encourages students to analyze and evaluate theories and, historical and current events. And lastly, I wanted to mention that it also gives the students some sort of pride and commitment to social change. The more educated they are, the more that they'll be able to go out into our community and in the world and really advocate for change in this time. So I hope that we are able to follow through with this, and I am thankful again for the opportunity to speak, and I look forward to possibly teaching this topic, but also having my children learn about their history and their culture aside from what I have taught them since they were little. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Michaels, do we have any additional public comment?
We do not. There's no further public comment.
Thank you. Student Board Rep?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained? Motion passes. Elementary core science adoption recommendation.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by Trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels?
There is no public comment for this item.
Student Board Rep?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Do elementary.
Yes.
Okay, core instructional materials adoption for high schools.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by Trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels?
There is no public comment for this item.
Student Board Rep?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Supplementary instructional materials adoption for intervention.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by Trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels?
There is no public comment for this item.
Student Board Rep?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We're moving on to operational services. Request for Transportation Department. Disposition of assets.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by Trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels?
There is no public comment for this item.
Student Board Rep?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Contract between NVUSD and Chef Ann Foundation to provide support and assistance to school food
Move
program.
to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by Trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels?
There is no public comment for this item.
Student Board Rep?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Maintenance, skirting, siding, and trim.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by Trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels?
There is no public comment for this item.
Student Board Rep?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Ellis flooring carpet replacement, various district sites.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by Trustee Dooley. Pardon me, any public comment?
There is no public comment for this item.
Student Board Rep?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Request for contract with Aperture Media and Design LLC.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by Trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels?
There is no public comment on this item.
Thank you. Student Board Rep?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Maintenance gutters downspouts project.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by Trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels?
There is no public comment on this item.
Student Board Rep?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to school planning and construction. Resolution 2231, developer fee level.
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Do we have any public comment?
There is no public comment on this item.
Roll call vote, please, Vera.
Student Board Member Bit,
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz,
Aye.
Trustee Gracia,
Aye.
Trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Reiser,
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares,
Aye.
Trustee Shu,
Aye.
Trustee Dooley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vera. Resolution 2234, authorizing filing of applications for preschool, transitional kindergarten, and full-day kindergarten facility grant program.
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment?
There is no public comment for this item.
Thank you. Vera, another roll call vote, please.
Student Board Member Bit,
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz,
Aye.
Trustee Gracia,
Aye.
Trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Reiser,
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares,
Aye.
Trustee Shu,
Aye.
Trustee Dooley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vera. Request to surplus one relocatable classroom at American Canyon Middle School.
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels.
There is no public comment on this item.
Student Board Rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Request for contract of services with Recolette.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Energy. First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels.
There is no public comment on this item.
Student Board Rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes with bad pronunciation. Request for contract with Fry's Consulting for HVAC system consulting.
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels.
There is no public comment for this item.
Student Board Rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Request for approval of Citizens Bond Oversight Committee membership.
Move to
Applications.
approve, but I want to make some comment before we vote.
No problem.
Second.
First by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment?
There is no public comment on this item.
I just, again, wanted to take this opportunity to thank the existing members serving on our committee and to appreciate the 4 people who have signed up to join the committee and just thank them for their service. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
I also just want to thank them because I asked several people.
You recruited.
I was trying to recruit. And I'm like, it's awesome. And so
Have you ever been to the meetings?
Could have been a
It's
bad
work.
but you know, well, I'll continue. I'm going to continue. And, but it makes me just so much more appreciate those who have said yes. So thank you so much for participating.
Student Board Rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Request for contract with Arcana Project Inspection for IOR services at the fencing phase 3 project.
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Dooley. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment?
There is no public comment for this item.
Student Board Rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to informational items. For general services, student support, minutes are attached. Facilities and Technology Committee, minutes are attached. Finance Committee has not met, and the Policy Committee has not met. Business Services. Any comments on contract analysis?
I do have some. So I wanted to appreciate staff putting together this report for us. This was something that we had requested at the last board meeting. And so they have supplied the information that we requested. I feel like much of what has been demonstrated in the report has been addressed at our special meeting with regard to some of these contracts. So I don't feel like there's necessarily more that we need to do at this point.
Thank you, Trustee Gracia. Enrollment report. We're all well aware of where that's going. Instructional services, chronic absenteeism report month 8.
It's good that we're improving, but it's still alarming how high that rate is.
Additional suggestions and comments from board members and superintendent. Future agenda items.
Move to adjourn.
First by Trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by Trustee Dooley.
I break the streak.
No public comment necessary. Student board rep.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all very much. See you all in 2 weeks.